Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 45. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by the legendary Willie and Jody.
Woo! Oh, I thought I was legendary, but then you said
we're both
Jody.
legendary.
The legend of your combined exploits is legendary.
Oh, that's true.
Sure.
Hey Jody, you got any dad jokes for us?
I do. I didn't know if I was going to end with it or start with it. I was a bit confused, but I mean, it's like almost a true story because I went shopping for a sofa for 5 people because I got a big family. So the salesman tells me, this sofa will seat 5 people without any problems, and I was like, dude, where the fuck am I going to find 5 people without any problems?
I saw that one coming.
Yeah, dad jokes are pretty predictable. That's what makes them dad jokes.
That is the worst dad joke. The worst.
The worse they are, the better.
Yes,
no, there's got to be like this little bit of a like ha 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 laugh, not just.
What about the
silence.
classic? What about the classic? Dad, I'm hungry. Hello, hungry. I'm Dad.
I mean, that's unbeatable.
Unbeatable. That's the good stuff.
I used.
I was saving that for our last ever recording, but now I've wasted it.
All right. Well, I mean, the long walk through Jangai Pass is behind us.
Oh, thank God. So many bodies on spikes.
Yeah, now we have a bit of action, if you know what I mean.
Ooh, I do.
This is going to be our sauciest episode yet. And we've left the sauce in the hands of our sauciest team member.
Stop saying sauce.
Yes. But, we'll get to that after we obviously make a bit of traction in Salidar. And I feel like my initial reaction to reading the stuff about Salidar was that, wow, this is really early. And then I thought about, no, actually, there is so much shit that plays out in Salidar that about midway through book 5 feels right. I mean, if you think there's Egwene's rise to the Amerlin seat and all the related politics with that, there's the whole Halima thing, there's healing and gentling and stilling that happens there, and there's all the preparation for going to the tower with an army and stuff. There's a whole lot of stuff that actually plays out there, which is
For some reason,
easy to
I
forget.
remember mud.
Yes.
You remember
I was
what?
also surprised when they show up here now and it's hot, and I was like, wasn't it really cold there? But then I figure, okay, well, if they're going to spend a lot of time there, the seasons will pass. But yeah, I also remember that Phil with the snow and stuff, and laying down loads of planks for them to walk on because
Planks for
everything was
them
getting
to
muddy
walk.
and mucky. Yeah. Yeah, good shit. All right.
You get excited by the simplest things. Good shit. Planks on the
simple
dirt.
man.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, that's good shit. It might be because it actually triggers memories of Deadwood.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Deadwood in the mud. That's the
Yeah.
worst.
That's a great
You'd think if you can invent a steam locomotive to traverse across the entire of the United States interior, that you could lay down some asphalt. But no, they couldn't. They didn't. They couldn't even put Roman-style pebble roads down. They just walked and fell in the mud.
These guys were on the frontier. They were out on the bleeding edge of civilization. They were where no one else wanted
don't
to
know,
go.
man.
Let alone
It's no
building
asphalt.
I don't know. It's like a good couple of thousand years before then, there was roads being made already in Europe.
Yeah,
So I mean,
you have a point.
it's that they sail across the ocean and forget about roads, like the possibility of making them. It's
But
just
I mean,
like
those roads were built off the back of Rome's accumulated slaves and the nations that they conquered and carted all the labor back home for, and over a pretty long period of time, I would guess.
hold up.
But anyway,
this
we
is going to be a
digress.
sticky point. But
Please,
are you
let's
saying
digress.
that they did not import any slaves to the United States of America?
True fact. Before we get stuck into slavery and solving the problems of the past world, how about we look into our own pasts and do some callbacks? All right, guys, are you comfortable? We've got quite a few to go through here.
Oh, all right. Hit it.
I just always love your reactions to me getting stuck into callbacks. Very, very little pedantry here. Just some good old explanation and quite a few listener contributions.
Oh, sweet.
I had wondered in the last episode if Moraine's showdown with Lanfear happened near the docks in Cairhien, because I thought that, Kadere's wagons would become unnecessary once the Terangriel and Sangriel, etc. were loaded onto ships, and all of that was off the back of the conversation around Kerry's indignation at Rand's acceptance of Kadere carting the Ungriel on his behalf. But a new contributor, Nathan Cooper, wrote in to remind me of a point that I actually made to Kerry in our off-air conversation, which is that bringing any kind of attention to Kadere's Dark Friend status would quite likely expose Asmodean, which Rand just couldn't afford at that stage. So, just play it cool, keep an eye on them, and ride it out. Like Willie said, make the guy work for you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, while he's hauling crap, he's not going to do any crap.
Well, that's debatable, but he does do crap in this episode.
In Morris's chapter.
Yep.
And as I said that, I was.
But I get your point.
Acutely aware of that, but
There was those 5 minutes that they left him alone without supervision.
Yes, murder. But Nathan also sent in another great point about Rand's refusal to kill a woman and his reluctance to put women like the maidens in the last episode in any kind of danger. He was saying that because Lews Therin killed his own wife, whom he loved very much, there could be this latent, or quite likely is this latent familicide memory, which would have this effect on Rand, which, we might have been a little bit, rolling our eyes at Rand for not wanting to endanger the maidens and stuff. But, that's also coming with the knowledge of how badass the maidens are and, the actual contents of the story as a whole. But it got me thinking. I thought that was a great point. And then off the back of that, I was also thinking that because Rand lost his mom, Carrie, not his birth mother, but his adoptive mother, when he was really, really young, which, meant that he grew up in a home where there was this very obvious gap. He's from a small town where most families would fit the regular, quote unquote, regular configuration of a mother and father and children, and he would have this gap. So, not having his mom around, I think, would also play into that. So there are a number of contributing factors that would explain why Rand has this attitude towards women and not putting them in danger and not wanting to kill them. And then Ian Yellen also wrote in, which says, Ian wrote in to say that much of the wider wetlander culture in this story is based on European culture of around the dawn of discovery. So that's like the 1400s to 1600s, which had traditionally put women up on a pedestal as the fairer sex and sort of relegating them to just being admired, because most jobs required physical strength, especially battle and soldiers and that sort of stuff. So this combination of old world thinking, Lews Therin's latent memories of killing his wife, Rand's mom being absent from his life because she had died, all would, feed into that. So maybe we were just a little bit quick to roll our eyes at old Rand for not wanting to endanger the maidens. What do you guys think?
I need to interject there and disagree with that last point about the old world mentality. I get where that is coming from,
with Jody
but
in there.
this is not that. The women have been running the show for 3,000 years over here. There shouldn't be any of that. The Aes Sedai rule the world. In this world, you can't trust a man because they literally broke it the last time you left them in charge. So, yeah, that point maybe I can just see what you're talking about, Rand and his not having a mother and all of that stuff. And Lews Therin, that influence. That makes some sense, but I don't know about that cultural thing. The last point you made.
Maybe Ian was, and I'll throw Ian a bone here, but maybe he was alluding to specifically in battle and armed forces. Not a lot of women joining the army.
I will throw Ian a complete bone and say he's. That didn't come out right. No, we must always remember that we are in a fantasy world and we are reading fantasy, and to try and project our real world onto that, and which is a normal thing to do, but we just have to remember that it's I suppose this comes off heavy article readings and how people are taking fantasy movies and projecting the real world onto that and changing the narratives of it. It's something that I'm just so aware of, and like just leave the fantasy to be. Let's not try and compare it to inequalities and all the rest. It's a book that was written about a futuristic place after spaceships flew around every day and buildings floated in midair, and we drilled a hole into the devil's place and the devil came out. I mean, these are all things that's really not going to be happening to us anytime soon.
Yeah, no, a valid point, Willie, and something to just another lens through which to view these things, right?
Yes, I love my fantasy lens when I climb into this series, especially, or
Yeah.
any fantasy for that, because it is escapism. It really is escapism from a world that we are so dire looking for it that
Yes.
it's, yeah. I mean, if we want to harp on about stuff, there's muddy roads and pot scrubbing, which I've got plenty of time to harp
There's
on
important
about.
stuff, you know. Like-
No shortage of things to harp on, no.
Oh, no,
So let me harp
definitely
on
not.
another one. Villy, I'm going to be pedantic here and mention that in the last episode you said that during the Aiel War there were 4 septs that crossed the Dragon Wall because of Lama and Sin, but it was 4 clans. Remember, there
Clans.
can be many septs in a clan.
Yes.
And on the topic of clans, we sort of asked a half-hearted question about how many clans are with Rand now. If 4 came over in the Aiel War, how many are with him? And from what I can gather, I think it's 7. And that's from just reading about the clan chiefs that are in attendance in Rand's various meetings, who are Bael from the Goshin, Bruhan from the Nakai, Derek from the Rain, Erim from the Shireen, Han from the Terminal, Jeren from the Sharad, and of course Ruach from the Tardad, which leaves the following. Couladin, obviously, from the Shaido. Then there's Indirian from the Kodera, Mandalane from the Dareen, Timilan from the Miagoma, who we heard mentioned in the last episode, but who only joined Rand after the Battle of Cairhien.
No, because they're just a day behind or something.
Yeah, they're
Yes.
traveling.
They got
just
word
behind.
they're on their way.
Mm.
Yeah. So 7 is basically what I'm getting at there. The short answer to that question instead of the ramble that I just went on. Brazilian meat skewers are called espetos.
There we
Yeah.
go. I said it was
Is that what you said, Joe?
I
So
thought
you
that
said
was like more
espada.
espadas or something. Because an espeto here,
Okay.
where I live, is like a piece of bamboo. That's where you cook the sardines on the fire on the beach.
Ah,
And
interesting.
you've got like whole
Okay.
sardines perpendicular to the piece of bamboo, and then you put them on over the
I
coals.
know, man. Every time I
That's
pull
a very
sardine out of
specific
a
word.
tin, it just falls to pieces. So how do you put a skewer through a sardine?
Google it.
Well, if we have any Brazilian listeners that need to or feel the urge to correct me, please do, because we're just wading further into the weeds here. Then we sort of ummed and ahed about how do Madral truly die, and it's at the setting of the sun. So I just went and I confirmed that. So if you kill them at night, they have to spend the whole day just languishing in the sun until the sun sets, and then they can die.
Do you think that while they're lying there, they get to think about their sins and life? Like you get like
Just
18
regrets.
hours, just like regrets, and like
Maybe.
what if I ran away from my Trolloc mother and father and I decided to go and live in the mountains?
I think they think about their sins and they regret not being able to commit more of them.
Yes.
Then I went looking for any kind of sign about what those child-sized statues that you guys said were mentioned more than once, what they could refer to. Nothing. Not on the 13th depository, which is like the most
Holy Grail.
comprehensive place on the internet. But yeah, I looked all over the place, couldn't find anything. We asked how long between Falme and Jangai Pass, and according to their timeline that I found, it's about 280 days, so call it like 9-10 months. Can't even remember the context of the question, why we were asking for the
I
time
don't
between
even
Falme and
remember the
Jangai Pass,
question.
but
Anyway,
there we have it. Okay, now I'll ask you again, are you comfortable? Because remember last time I spoke about Matt's memories and the very specific time span that they covered? And then we sort of had this really,
yeah.
really lame
Mm-hmm.
fart-ass conversation about like what the wars could have been that went down during that time and what battle experience Matt could have, gained, or the memories that he has of battle from that time. Turns out quite a lot. So what Matt says in the previous stretch of chapters that we read is that his memories start about 400 or 500 years before the Trolloc Wars. And they continue until about the time of Arthur Hawkwing and nothing beyond that. So I did some sort of mental math and I said that's about 1,500 years. And then, we speculated about like what wars could have happened in that time. It's not the War of Power, because obviously the world had broken already. And 500 years after the breaking of the earth, of the world, there was no more War of Power. So what were the wars? Okay, so here we go. The Trolloc Wars start around 1,000 years after the breaking. So if Matt's memories start 400 to 500 years before the Trolloc Wars, then Matt's memories start around 500 AB. AB is after breaking.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, the Compact of the 10 Nations has been signed already, meaning that the 10 nations are Aelgar, Elmorin, Aramael, Aradol, Coromanda, Eharan, Isania, Jeremide, Manetherin, and Safer. They are the 10 that are united against the Shadow. And by this stage, the Tarvalon, the city, has been built and it's occupied by Aes Sedai as we know them, with an Amyrlin seat. Okay, so around about this time is when Matt's memories start.
Any male Aes Sedais in the tower, or is that all female Aes Sedai tower?
It's been the breaking, right? So men are crazy, can't channel. No, big no. So we said the Trolloc Wars start around 1,000 AB. So during this Compact of 10 Nations, there doesn't seem to be a lot happening other than maybe just minor skirmishes between those countries. But when the Trolloc Wars start in earnest in the year 1000 AB, they continue for about 350 years until 1350 AB. Almost continuous fighting, including the destruction of Manetherin and Aradol. And after the Trolloc War, so after 1350 AB, they changed to the free years denoted by FY. So if you see a year in those, denoted by FY, it's the free years. So it's the years after the Trolloc Wars. So then after the Trolloc Wars, there's a lot of civil unrest, and then there are 23 new nations that emerge. So now that they don't have Trollocs to fight, who are people going to fight? Each other. And then obviously they split up their 10 countries into 23 new nations. During this time, a brilliant general named Madoc Comadrin emerges, and he writes the definitive book on war called Fog and Steel. And Matt quotes both the book and Comadrin's own memories, which Matt now has at times throughout the series, which is fucking awesome. Yeah. So then there are various smaller wars and battles and false dragons that sort of come and go. I think, was it Rowland Darksbane was the first one, and then there were a couple others. Until in free year 939 to free year 943. So that's a period of about 4 years. Gwer Amalasan, a false dragon, conquered a third of the continent in the War of the Second Dragon, and he lays siege to the Stone of Tyr, where then Arthur Tanriel leads several armies against Amalasan and earns the nickname Hawkwing for the speed at which he moves his troops around. He eventually beats him, and Amalasan is taken captive by the Aes Sedai, but 2 of his generals lay siege to Tarvalon with 100,000 men in an attempt to free him. But they're defeated again by Hawkwing, who then departs from Tarvalon on bad terms with Bonwyn, the Amyrlin seat at the time. And then in free years 943 to 963 is the War of Consolidation, where several kingdoms just start attacking Hawkwing's nation, which is Shandal. And Hawkwing beats them and finds himself in control of a large part of the continent purely from his defensive battles. Like, he's not aggressing at all, but people are attacking him, and as he's beating him, he's just taking their land because they've run out of troops and any way of resisting him. And thus begins the unification. And he ends up as the ruler of the entire Westlands Empire. And then free year 964, he tries an invasion of the Waste, but ultimately fails because mostly of the Aiel's not reluctance, but they just avoid him. Like, they're using guerrilla tactics, right? So they're not meeting him in open battle, and the just inhospitable nature of the Waste itself just sort of turns him back. So gives up on trying to conquer the waste. But then in free year 986 to 987, a huge host of Shadowspawn attacks the Wastelands, but Hawkwing sort of builds up his army again and defeats them. And then he seems reinvigorated by the war, and he starts planning more campaigns. And it's that point when they start building a huge fleet of ships. And in free year 992, Hawkwing's son takes a huge fleet of them across the Arith Ocean, which now we know ends up as the Seanchan. And then eventually Hawkwing falls ill and he dies in free year 994, sparking the War of the 100 Years, which, Willie, quite correctly, does not last for 100 years, but for 123 years. And those are all the wars that happen in that period that Matt, gains memories and stuff on. So plenty of subject matter for him to call back on.
That is a lot of subject matter. That is a good history lesson there.
It's nice, eh? Like the intricacies of all those unification wars and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's so easy to that stuff just blends together, right? Like you just think, okay, they're fighting the bad guys all the time. But the majority of the wars are actually fought, amongst the nations, except, of course, for the Trolloc Wars. And the Trolloc Wars last for 350 years. I mean, that's
fucking Trollocs, man.
How does one fight a war for 350 years? I mean, I would imagine that everyone dies after 10. It's
yeah.
Good question, Vil. It's Ishamael. At around 1000 AB, Ishamael starts appearing in these cycles. First, just as a thin, almost apparition version of himself, and then more and more solidly. So you're quite right. Who would potentially want to carry on a war for that long? How about an immortal Forsaken?
Well, that is ideally who would want to do that, I reckon.
I mean, it's a perfect candidate, yes. Okay, here's a quick palate cleanser. After that war dump, here's a quick palate cleanser. We discussed this on Twitter, Jody, but my book definitely says that the Sharad kept slaves. And then, Jody, you sent me a screenshot of your Kindle version, which definitely says the Sharans have slaves. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that it's Shara with was the intended reference and not the Sharad. Okay. You ready to talk about Moghedien and Egwene's dreams?
I don't need to talk about it because I know that I'm correct in it. So.
We're going to listen to you talk about it. All right,
at least I got something from Mick Halverson, who wrote in with his own theory, which I think fits very nicely in between what you and Jody were saying, Willie. Because Mick was saying that he also thinks it is definitely related to the accepted test Terangriel. And he makes this very valid point that we missed out on. That Terangriel was made during the Age of Legends. And Moghedien is from the Age of Legends. And we all know that Moghedien is widely considered to be the most powerful of the Forsaken in the World of Dreams, specifically in Tel'aran'rhiod. So it is very likely that she knows the exact mechanism by which the World of Dreams or that Terangriel can look inside of a person to bring forth their own inner feelings and thoughts and things that could potentially be used as a trap for them. I mean, the accepted test is specifically designed to be a trap. So that answers the core question that we had. How would Moghedien know what Egwene is feeling towards Gawain or even Galad to try and set a trap for her that way? She is probably across whatever they use to make the Terangriel, if she didn't even have a hand in making that Terangriel herself. So I'm happy to use that as an excuse to say, okay, Moghedien just knows how to do that, and then probably put her in a dream shard and, had Egwene's mind manifest all that stuff. So little bits and pieces of everything that we were saying, if you glom them all together with that acceptance that Moghedien would know how to do that, makes enough sense to me to move on with my life. What do you guys think?
I'm happy with it. I mean, it's... She's deftly at what she does, Moghedien, and she did probably have a hand in making this Terangriel, you would think.
Yeah.
So
you would think
she built a little back door in there to hack the Bryne, use his mind like, I see your head, I see what I can throw out there, seeds of entrapment.
If it'll make these callbacks end, then I agree with everything.
It sounds like you don't agree, Jody. Elaborate.
No,
Jody,
totally.
I would really like you to tell me what you really think.
No, you don't. I'll tell you on Twitter. No. I totally agree. Dream Shard, she knows how to. Yeah, 100% makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying that to get this part over with. I literally, genuinely agree.
To me, Mick answered my biggest question that I couldn't let go like a dog with a bone. Like it puts in that missing puzzle piece. Of course, that Tarangril is from the Age of Legends, Mogilian's from the Age of Legends. She would know how to do that. The end. Okay, then some other listener submissions. Jonna Pierce wrote in, and she thinks that we're being too forgiving to the Cairhenians from the point of view of the Aiel, right? Like we sort of lamented the fact that the Aiel were being too harsh. And we were saying, look, they came over and they killed Laman, so everything should have been fine, right? But she was saying that, look, the Aiel don't like the Oathbreakers because they also think that the Cairhenian themselves should have disciplined Laman for what he did, but they left it to the Aiel. So to them, the people of Cairhien are complicit in what Laman did because they did not take it upon themselves to exact the what they would deem adequate punishment. And then, if you take a bit of a sins of the father mentality and sort of how that stuff is passed down from generation to generation, you can see why the Aiel might be that way. And this is becoming a phrase that I'm using quite a lot, but I don't like it, but I understand it.
Yeah. So Jody sounds convinced. Yeah,
I don't know, man.
No. Oh, we both stopped. Yeah. I see the point that you're making there, but
not justifying it, just explaining.
No, of course not. But I mean, you can't expect the peasants to rise up because their king chopped down a tree that they got thousands of years ago. Like they got bigger things to worry about. How am I going to put food on the table? Are bandits going to kill my family tomorrow? I don't give a shit about a tree in the king's garden. Like,
am I going to cook this cabbage tonight so that it doesn't taste like last night's cabbage? That's the biggest worry.
The Aiel are projecting their own sense of honor and unity and stuff on there. Like we would have done that. Yeah. Why didn't they?
Right.
So,
look,
damn Geeto.
I must add in there, and it's specifically going to the Geeto, that they cannot judge others by their own standards or by their own mechanism of honor and obligation. But
they do.
Yeah, we all do. We're judging them by our standards right now.
So the fundamental question here is not whether we would do it, but can we believe that the Aiel would do it?
Yes.
And to that, my answer is yes.
Yes, we can.
All right. That I do agree with.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Just everyone's agreeing. Everyone's so happy to agree.
Oh, look at us go. Okay, one more final point. Another
I disagree.
From Ian Yellen. Ian wrote in to say that a Russell's viper has a toxin that can coagulate the blood. So it could have been a point of reference for RJ. So there is a snake out there.
And there's a blood snake,
There is a blood snake. Yes, I found it.
Yeah, you found it. Yeah.
But it's
follow Willie on Twitter for more blood snake related tweets.
Snake facts. All right, guys, I'm all done. Should we quickly do a recap and then get stuck in?
Yes. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Come, I'm pushing the pace here. Let's go. I know I'm the one holding us back, but I'm almost done, and then you guys can regale us with your chapters.
Right on.
So, previously on Blood and Ashes, Rand and Co. find the town of Tynion near the start of Jangai Pass, all but destroyed by the Shaido, who seem to have taken slaves and left Rand a threatening message. They make camp, and Aviendha gives Rand Laman's sword as a gift in an attempt to repay the debt of the gift he had given her, but Rand manages to stuff that up by giving her back the scabbard and the hilt, keeping only the blade. The camp is attacked at night, where Matt then kills a Fade, and Rand and Aviendha save each other from a Drakkar each. The force emerges from Jangai Pass into the wetlands. Rand says to the Aiel he'll let them have the fifth, but reminds them they are there not, to save this land, not to ravage it. Aviendha is freaking out about sharing Rand's tent to Egwene, but Sorrelea sets her straight. And then in Tel'aran'rhiod, Egwene sees Elaine speaking to Birgitte before the Wise Ones also arrive for their scheduled sharing of information. Egwene gives Elaine a coded message to meet in the tower, where they also share some more news and then eventually part ways. But Egwene lingers in Tel'aran'rhiod, and while in the tower, she's almost distracted and trapped by the arrival of Galad. And then she jumps to Eamond's field, where she's again tempted by the arrival of Gawain, this time in a reality where they have a child together. But she manages to pull herself away and to escape what becomes obvious then is a trap laid by Morgideon that has been spying on her all along. Which brings us now to today's first chapter, which is chapter 26, called Salidar. And it's all yours, Jody.
It is all mine. Thank you, Maritz. We join old Min, Siuan, Leanne and Logain, travelling under their pseudonyms that I have now forgotten, except for Logain's, which is Dalen, and some other people.
Mara.
Not important. Mara?
Mara's
Yeah,
the only one I remember.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's true. I do remember two then. So they have been travelling south and west of Lugard, and they've been travelling for 15 days. I make the point of that because I know Willie likes to know how long things have been taking. So it's been just over 2 weeks when we find them again through the woods there. Logain's mood has been steadily going down the shitter. It seems like the depression experienced by being gentle has finally caught up with him. Even though Leanne has been trying to keep him motivated, little air quotes there, she's touching his arm and whispering in his ear and trying to, using her wily ways to try and keep him motivated. It doesn't seem to be working anymore, though. He's really at the end of his rope. But Min is still seeing that aura of glory around him and the crown of gold and all that stuff. And she can't figure out what's happening. And it's actually appearing more often now. It's more regular every time she looks at him, which is, in juxtaposition with what is they're actually seeing. So Siuan, of course, has been keeping their destination a secret. She may have been stilled, but her Aes Sedai ways are still very strong with her. She doesn't think it's necessary to tell Min where they're going. And while they're traveling on the road as well, there's a little line that popped out here that's Min's talking. There's a little line. She sees squirrels running around and she hears bird calls. And I went, oh, bird calls. Those are totally water signals. Like, I don't think that she's not just listening to birds. Those are little messages. Like, here comes trouble.
I missed that.
Yeah, when a second I saw it, I thought, those aren't birds.
Nice.
Suddenly, the woodlands that they've been traveling through just open up, and there is a village of surprising size. Because the road they've been traveling on as well is overgrown. They can see that there once was a road there because there's like a lot of low brush and bush that's in a dead straight line that's growing on it. And that's what they've been following. But it's been abandoned for decades and decades. And all of a sudden, here's this town, people everywhere, work going on, new roofs going up, all that kind of stuff, a lot of it, and there's just waters and Aes Sedai make up 90% of this entire town. And Min is just freaking out because she's just overwhelmed with all the images that she's seeing flickering around them constantly. They don't seem, the residents of this town, they don't seem to be particularly interested of these people. They don't seem to welcome them at all. But as they enter, everyone just stops what they're doing and stares at them. And there's a little sign as well, like the waters that are thatching the roofs, their hands go into like secret compartments or like under the thatch. A water's hand will go inside a doorway and around the corner, like all just grabbing onto weapons. And Siuan leads them straight to a building that must have been an inn once, and lets them handle Logain. She's never helping with Logain. She's just giving orders and telling them to bring him in. The inn shows, it's seen better days. There's holes in the ceiling, there's stones missing from the wall, and it's like all the furniture inside is all mismatched. So people have been here, not a long time and just been fixing up. It's quite obvious. And there are Aes Sedai, of course, inside there with notes, sitting at tables, making plans, sending warders on missions, and people just busy. But it's a whole bunch of just busy work, really. Siuan sees through that immediately. 4 Aes Sedai come to meet them there. We see Sheriam. She's back. Min sees a flicker around her of rays of silver and blue. Anybody there? Don't know what the silver and blue meant. The second one she sees is Cairhien, who has a black raven tattoo, is the image that she sees. She sees a black raven. It's more like a drawing, and then she figures it must be a tattoo. So I was like, ooh.
Yeah,
ravens.
Min thinks it could be a tattoo. She doesn't see a tattoo, which is important because...
But the word is written there, tattoo. So, she figures it must be that. So, we got a Sean chant thing. So, we know that, I think this must be during the attack on the tower or something. by the Seanchan, but we'll never know. We will have to wait and see. Morel is there too, and Anaya. So the 4 Aes Sedai that seem to be in charge that come up to her first is Sheriam, Cairhien, Morel, and Anaya. Sheriam recognizes Min instantaneously and asks, what the fuck you think you're doing bringing Logain here? And at the sound of that, you just see warders in the background moving into position, hands on swords, eyes ready to, eyes on Logain, ready to attack us. It's a lovely sight. In my mind's eye, I love this scene a lot. Funnily enough, they don't notice Siuan or Leanne at all. Like their faces have changed so much. She's just directing her conversation at Min this whole time. She wasn't like, how the hell did you find us? We've really made an effort to hide away, and here you come walking into town with Logain, no less, as if it's been nothing at all. So Min's like, well, why don't you ask Siuan and Leanne? How the fuck should I know? I'm just a passenger on this trip. And they look at them. The Aes Sedai look at each other. They look at the two, what they call the 2 girls behind her, like these 2 girls that you've come with, and then they shake their heads. They're like, no, like so skeptical. Now, of course, this entire time the warders have not taken their eyes off Logain. Their hands are on their swords still. The 4 Aes Sedai, they seem to think that. They come to terms with this, that this could actually be Siuan and Leanne, and maybe the appearance has changed because of the stilling, but they don't trust them too much, so they kind of just basically put them to the question.
Yeah, they are like really disbelieving.
Yeah.
Hey, like the change is so significant.
Yeah. This is too unbelievable. So they put them through some questioning. They asked them very, very specific questions about their time as novices and whatnot, and not just general stuff that could be taught. Because there's one of the whites. I can't remember which one is the white now. Cairhien? Or Anaya?
Yes, I think so.
Cairhien. She's just like, yeah, because voices can be taught. Because as soon as Siuan opens her mouth, they're like, well, that's Siuan's voice for you. But she's like, no, we need to get 100% certain that this is them. So they put them to the question. A lot of dirt is uncovered. Siuan and Leanne were wild. Sneaking out of the tower to go fishing, of course. They're playing pranks on Aes Sedai, putting trouts in their baths. I was thinking that there's one line they asked them about, was that they washed a very disliked acceptance dress in itchweed. And I was like, dude, that accepted was totally Elida, wasn't it? I'm so certain that it was her that they did that to. But yeah, they got up to a whole lot of shit. They're very, very strict on the other girls. But yeah, they had their time as novices as well. We tend to forget that. So anyway, Siuan now tells them after all of this has come through, they basically, all right, this is Siuan and Leanne. They agree. Siuan tells them now how she found them, that she contacted her eyes and ears that used to work for the Blues and found out about Salidar and Salidar and blah, 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 blah. That's the whole story. That's how they found them. Leanne adds, of course, like, look, even though we can't channel on anymore, we can still be of use to the tower. They still want to be part of this. They know everything that they knew before. Look, we can't channel anymore, but all that knowledge that we had for 20 years of being the Amerlin and the Keeper of the Seals and all that. What is the second in command? I've already forgotten Leanne's title.
The Keeper.
The Keeper. Yeah, all right. It is Keeper. So, yeah, they've still got all that knowledge. 20 years of combined knowledge that can be used. So they send Min and Logain away so that they can have a private chat. 2 warders stealthily observe Min and Logain. Of course, no one is going to let Logain out of their sight, even though he is a negative threat at this moment. Min is offered something to eat by a young novice called Tabia. I wanted to go and find out more about this person, but I got a severe migraine and there went my day. But anyway, did anybody else do that? Did you look into Tabia? No. I'll give myself that homework. But several other people come to talk to them, but Min just gets the feeling that she isn't very welcome there. She just wants to get to Rand, basically. The whole thoughts are on Rand this entire time and have been throughout the entire journey. She wants to show him what Leanne has taught her. So it's like, oh, Rand is in for some. And meanwhile, back in Cairhien, Rand is having his own little adventures, which we'll get to. You know who else is there? Faolain. That Horrible little woman. She's there too. She's still accepted. But she's upset with Min that she brought Logain and Siuan. Like, why did you bring these people here? She's mad at Siuan, who she blames for breaking the tower. And then eventually, she's like, shut the fuck up. And then literally a yellow Aes Sedai named Edicida pops in and she tells her to shut the fuck up and kicks her out. I was like, thank you, Edicida. Someone needs to say that. Not those exact words, but anyway. Edicida quickly delves Logain. She puts her hands. He doesn't even flinch or move. And Min sees an Adam around her neck. Quickly, just flashes and then shatters. So it's like, all right, she's going to get caught by the Seanchan, but she's going to escape. So it's going to be cool. Don't stress out. Although, even if you do escape, it's something that stays with you forever. Yeah, that's some trauma, man. So Adesina says after delving, she's like, I can't help this man. I can't help Logain. He's at the end of his rope. After gentling, he's probably not going to last very much longer. And I'm thinking to myself, don't worry. Nynaeve's on her way. She'll sort it out. Then another Aes Sedai pops into the room. A green named Karuna, who does actually feature much more prominently in later chapters and even towards the end. She's there at the last battle as well. Karuna. And she just gives Logain a dirty look. She looks at them as if there's no recognition as well, and then leaves without saying a word. So that whole little exchange there just made me go, what? Who is this person? So I did actually go and look up about her. And like I said, yeah, she's there for a while. She ends up being sent later on to go on a mission to go find Rand and all that stuff. She's apparently very, very strong in the power. She fights at the last battle where she's ultimately killed. But she's not the friendliest of people, but she is very strong in the power, and she is a good guy, not Black Aja. So we can chill, because like that little interaction between them and that dirty look. I thought, I don't trust this woman. Turns out we can trust her, and basically that's it. That's how the chapter ends.
Nice. Here we are in Salidar.
Yeah,
It feels so fast that we got here.
That's what I was saying in the beginning, right? Like my initial reaction was also, whoa, early, but there's so much stuff that actually happens here. Where I think the first time you read the books, you don't expect this place to play the massive role that it does over the story. Because, I mean, Egwene gets captured at the end of book 10. So it's half of this book until the end of book 10, so it's like 5.5 books worth of stuff going down in Salidar before Egwene's capture. And I mean, Egwene's capture is not the end of Salidar. That's just like the end of where I have any interest in Salidar, because Egwene isn't there anymore. But then after that, Siuan and Gareth and like the sisters from Salidar prepare the army. I mean, they are there at Tarvalon actually laying siege to it when Egwene is captured, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot that has to happen.
Yeah, looking forward to that, man. Egwene's journey.
Yeah. I didn't have an awful lot to say about this chapter, except for also doing what you did, Joe, and just like reading up about a couple of the sisters that are named here, just to make sure I know who they are and where they're going, and like whether I've read about them before, and a couple we have. So if you guys will bear with me, I'll quickly rattle off a couple of them.
Oh, please
do.
give
you a brief explanation. So Cairhien is the one that Min had that picture of a raven that she saw next to her. And I mentioned that it's because Min thinks it's a tattoo. She doesn't see a tattoo. She sees a drawing instead of the raven itself, and she thinks it could be a tattoo, which immediately leads you to think of the Seanchan, because I think that's like a mark of being property of the Empress or something along those lines.
Yeah, that private detective guy that was speaking to
Seeker.
The Seeker.
To Aiel.
To old Egiani. Yeah, he had the tats.
Yeah, because he's property.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to get to here is that Cairhien never crosses the Seanchan. So the viewing is not about that. But a raven could also be a symbol of the Dark One, because Cairhien is also, she's later killed by the Black Aja. And when someone asked Brandon Sanderson about this, he said, just read and find out. When it became clear that she was not going to meet with Seanchan, or it looked like she was never going to come across them, Brandon said, read and find out. And soon after that, she was killed by the Black Aja. So Yeah, a bit of a red herring there if you think she's also going to go to the Sean Chan. Morel, we know about. She's the one that's going to get Land's water bond transferred to her. She's particularly good at helping warders, see through that grief of losing their Aes Sedai. Anaya, we also know about. She's the one that was helping Egwene with the dreamer stuff. She's the one that believed Egwene was a dreamer in the tower and was sort of helping her with that. She's eventually killed by Halima.
In Salidar.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because Halima does end up there.
She does. Edicina is sent to Terabon to liaise with the Sean Chan, or to spy on the Sean Chan, and she's captured and leashed, just like Min's viewing predicted. But then she's freed by Matt Cawthon. And Matt smuggles her out of town. She joins Val and Luca's menagerie. She travels with the band of the Red Hand afterwards. She's riding with Matt when they go into that town Hinterstep. And she eventually actually returns to the tower.
Wow, she has a whole little adventure ahead of her.
Nice. She sure does. Kiruna, as you said, Joe, is sent to the west to go look for Rand. But I think she ends up in Cairhien with some of the Aiel there. And she actually starts to apprentice with them, but is shocked when she finds out that it's not just for show. The wise ones truly treat her like an apprentice and expect her to behave like one. And I think it's Soralia that takes it upon herself to teach Karuna the difference between arrogance and pride.
She does.
And she does. Yes, it does happen. Of course it does.
You don't fuck with Soralia, man.
Nobody does. Especially horses, which she can strike down at 100 paces with just her eyes. Faolain, whom we all dislike because of her shit attitude, is the same one, that came to fetch Egwene and Elaine to come, or Nynaeve or someone to come, for an audience in the tower. She dislikes Egwene, but she actually swears loyalty to her and remains loyal to her. And Egwene is the one that raises her to Aes Sedai in Salidar by decree, without swearing on the oath rod or going through the test or anything. So there's this professional respect between them, even if they actually dislike each other.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and that's all the info that I have.
Some people are just shitty people. Doesn't mean they're bad people. They're just shitty people.
Yes, they're not evil, just cuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, sometimes you work with some shit people. You don't have to like them. You just got to work together.
Yeah. Vil, did you have anything else you wanted to lob in there?
Oh, no, this is all straightforward introduction. There's no swords stabbing and craziness.
No.
I'm a little bit over Siuan thinking that she's still wearing this freaking, still the Amyrlin seat. Take care of Logan. Load him on a horse. Get him off the horse. Come on.
Yeah.
Just
it gets even worse in this next chapter.
I know.
And the one after that.
So it's big fan, great woman. Just check yourself a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
She gets put in a
Okay, Joe.
Yeah.
Since you're already on a roll, why don't you take us then on to chapter 27, which is called The Practice of Diffidence, which I can only imagine is a joke, because this is not what I would call what Siuan is doing. But why don't you keep going?
I think it means that she needs to practice more. That's the thing. Lots and lots of practice is required. So yeah.
The chapter should be called Practice Your Diffidence.
Yes. And she doesn't really, because she immediately goes on the offensive. This is Min and Logain are out there getting some food, and Siuan and Leanne are being put to the question, but Siuan's just starting as if she's the Amyrlin again. Her first thing is, "You guys are rudderless." Of course, a boat metaphor. She's talking about an insulting boat metaphor. She's like, all this activity I see running around the village, like I mentioned earlier, this is no purpose. You're sending messages. It's all busy work. You're trying to look like, are you sitting around waiting for Elida to send someone to fetch you? Because that's what it seems like. They are, of course, this council that's been assembled are not pleased at all with this thing. So they they also point out to her, like, listen, you are not the Amyrlin anymore, sure, and neither are you the keeper, all right? But look, the accusations and the way you were treated and stilled and no trial, all of that is like a mockery of justice. We don't agree with it. We think we are 100% on your side of this, but that does not mean that you can come in here and start talking to us like you're the boss now. Those days are over. So Leanne and Siuan are still trying to argue that, look, that may be the case, but we still have all this knowledge. We can still be useful. We've still got connections. There's a lot of stuff that we can still do. So they one of the things that they suggest they do is that they can reroute all the reports sent by the Eyes and Ears networks, send it to Salidar, which would be a great advantage. Like, you can't let that shit go to waste. Like, I'm still in control of the Blue Network because they're never going to report to Elida, even though I suppose some of them will. But most of them that Siuan can still be in charge of. They also have Logain. And it turns out, like all our, pontifications earlier about what is really going on with this dude, it is true that they have Logain, who will testify that the Red Aja set him up to be a false dragon. So I think this is where it is confirmed. I don't know if we confirmed that in previous episodes, but 100% the reason here.
This is a particularly big bit of news.
Yes, indeed. Now, I know we've spoken about it on the podcast before, but I don't know if it's been confirmed in the books until now.
Well, I don't know if Siuan is lying.
Yeah?
Because she says, in this passage, she uses the words, the others never even considered that she might be lying. And then later she goes, the idea had been neatly planted.
Ah, that's right.
And she's telling Min not to let anyone talk to Logain. I wonder if she's bullshit.
She's really liking this lying apple. She's been hitting it hard.
Yeah, I mean, she makes a point of thinking about it. Yeah, like, so, and she then goes on, like, some sisters have studied stilled sisters before, but they don't really like to do it. So she's sort of, forcing, not forcing, but like exploiting the fact that, the sisters aren't used to dealing with stilled sisters. And therefore could be susceptible to just assuming that she wouldn't lie. So I don't know.
Yes. No, you're right.
It's going to be a good one to look out for.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean...
right in.
Also, that doesn't mean that she's wrong.
No,
that doesn't mean that's not what happened.
I'm unsure.
Yeah, that may have happened with... what's his face up north? Taim. Mazrim.
Yes.
That may have been the case with him. Maybe not with Logain, but it may have been the case with Mazrim. It does seem like something that the Reds would do, but we don't. So yeah, we actually don't have confirmation or any evidence at this stage. I retract what I said. All right. Thanks, Moritz. So anyway, yeah. So this is part because I do. Yeah. Later on in my notes, it does pop up that they have a plan that they're going to be planting all these little things in there in these Aes Sedai's heads. They're quite easily played, these Aes Sedai.
In the hands of a skilled manipulator like Siuan.
Yes. Well, look, I mean, the other Aes Sedai are not spring chickens, they're not just recently raised. They are quite manipulative themselves, and we've been doing it longer than Siuan. But, yeah.
True. But Siuan is particularly skilled at it, right? Like, I mean, she's been pulling puppet strings the whole time.
She's been pulling strings for a very long time. And she can lie now. And a lot of people disregard that fact that, okay, you've never lied and you weren't able to lie. And all of a sudden, she's like, what is this newfound freedom that I have? The sky is green. Oh, thrill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yes, that is that. That assumption from all the other Aes Sedai, they don't even consider the fact that she's lying. It wouldn't even enter their brains. All right. So, yeah, there it is. One idea planted. So, during this conversation as well, Leanne and Siuan reveal a lot about the networks of spies and the Eyes and Ears that the Aes Sedai there didn't know about. So, they're just more showing. There's a lot of blah, 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 blah in this chapter. I have whittled it down significantly. So basically, all this new information that they give them, it's now impossible for them to return to the tower, obviously. If Elida's known about this, like there's no reconciliation, this is the end of it. But Siuan, of course, is also a bit pissed off that they would even consider going back to the tower. So anyway, they move along. Reluctantly, though, they all agree to use Siuan and Leanne's contacts. They're like, okay, fine. So they agree to, they believe the first point about Logain. They've agreed to use the contacts. Things are going very nice now. Of course, apparently Siuan and Leanne had a chat earlier where they put all of this into motion, all of these plans into motion. They have a plan. So it's now Leanne's turn to put another idea into the heads of these Aes Sedai about forming a Hall of the Sitters and raising their own ambulance seat. Like, all right, so all of this shit you've heard now, it's impossible. We're not going to be able to unite the tower or go back. We're just going to build our own tower. Now, this as well is something that just, I just assumed would happen anyway because I've read the books before. But yeah, to the people right now at this point, they're still in Salidar, but they're holding out hope that they can reunite the tower and get back to things the way things were. They've never even considered having their own hall and raising their own Amaryllis until this idea has been put into their head. And we just live with it because we've known about it for so long. It's a difficult way to read the books again like this and have all this. No, we don't remember a lot of shit, but we do remember some key moments like this. So this would obviously mean that the tower would be broken, like proper broken for the world to see, like proper fucked. There would be 2 towers, 2 Amaryllis, 2 everything. So the world would know it and they would see it. And now they're going to have to go and the next obvious step would be to go and kick Elida off and actually take the real tower back for themselves. So, that idea seems to take hold in people's brains. You can see their eyes moving and looking at each other. So, yeah, plan is working, guys. Very well done, ladies. Siuan also discusses the whereabouts of Rand with them. So they're like, all right, so that's step 1. Step 2, like now we got to worry about this Dragon Reborn Rand al'Thor. Like I realize, for 20 years I was hiding him, but we've still got to go on and find this guy and try and control him a bit. She thinks at the moment that he's still in the Aiel Waste, and she's not wrong. I mean, he's literally been out of the Aiel Waste for what? Is it 2 weeks now? Around about 15 days, yeah? They're about the same amount of time. So she's not far off. And that they must send somebody right away to go and find him before Elida will send someone to go and find him. So they have a discussion and they agree that it's Karuna that we mentioned earlier and another Aes Sedai called Bera, who I've not written anything down about. I should have. So they are the 2 of them that are going to be sent to go and find old Rand. And that's where they go on that mission, and they hear later on their way that he's really come back from the waste and that he's in Cairhien, so that's where they head. Siuan and Leanne are then dismissed post-haste when Sheriam's warder comes in. Aviendha, he reports that some 20 armed men are approaching the village. There's a little look between Siuan and Leanne, like, who do what now? Sheriam tells the Aviendha is his name, the warder, that they cannot be allowed to give their presence away, And Aviendha replies like, listen, killing these guys and capturing these is going to be really difficult. I've had a look at them. These dudes are hardcore. They are veterans, and they've already seen us. They know we are here. So we're not even going to you're not even going to try that. Sheriam tells them that, listen, we've got to do everything we possibly can to keep this place a secret. But he's like, I don't think this is going to happen. But before he can ever do anything, older Nuhel, is how you pronounce it, Myrell's warder. He's the one that I don't think we were talking on Twitter about.
Yeah.
The cool dude. He, giving little winks to Myrell. He comes in and reports that this big group of 20 people has halted outside the town. Only one man is now approaching, and he thinks it's Gareth Bryne. Siuan's reaction, priceless. Oh, fuck. He is here. So he's like, Nohel's also like, this may actually be a very good thing. We are planning a whole bunch of shit here, and we're pretty much going to need a general, because while warders are awesome, we are weapons, basically. You point us where to go and fuck shit up, and we'll go fuck it up. But we need someone to do the pointing, and if there's anything anybody that's going to do the job, great. It's this guy. Is this where they mention? Is this where he talks about the 5? I can't remember.
Yeah, he rattles off the other 4 great captains, and he says,
it's Agelmar, Bryne,
Rodel,
Aiel's-
Iteralde, Davram Bashir,
Davin Bashir. Who else? What was the 5th one?
Pedro Nile.
Pedro Nile. Yeah, he's not going to be any help, guys.
That's basically what Noel says. It's like, don't rely on Pedro's not going to come to our aid yet.
We'll leave him in reserve just in case, if shit hits a fan. And then also in the Twitter conversation was like, and then we'll add Matt to that list pretty soon as well.
Yes,
there is a 6th general that no one's aware of. So Siuan, of course, cannot hide her shock at hearing Brian's name, and Sheriam notices immediately. So while Siuan has maintained a lot of her Aes Sedai-ness, keeping a straight face is not one of those skills that she has managed to keep, because Sheriam, like I said, notices immediately. She just looks at her and goes, and knows exactly why Brian is there. Looks at her, goes, fuck, what have you done? So she orders Brian to be brought to the inn. What did you do? She tells the warders, like, listen, you bring Brian here to the inn. We'll talk to him and see if we can convince him to join us. And in the meantime, Siuan, come over here. Come have a little chat with me and tell me what's going on here with this man, because I can see on your face this is all your fucking fault. And so Siuan has no choice but to sit there, or stand there actually, and explain what she's doing in Salidar and on the whole story that about Gareth Bryne and the rest of them. And basically that's how the chapter ends. Ooh, she's in trouble now.
Well,
Yeah.
if there's one thing that we're learning in this book, don't be an oath breaker.
Yeah.
Yes, apparently there are consequences.
Big time. I mean,
That's just a general rule for life, I think.
Yeah. Did you guys... am I missing something here? Why is Siuan sweating? Isn't that whole temperature resistance thing not of the power?
It is not. But like I say, she's kept some of her memories, and like keeping a straight face, keeping that Aes Sedai serenity is not a thing of the power either, but she's lost that.
But weren't they, when they were locked up in that shed, when they were going to face trial from Gareth Bryne, Min was sort of thinking, oh, if only I had their ability to not sweat and stuff, I found it, we were told more than once, a number of times, that it's not a thing of the power.
perhaps
So-
it is her just losing her cool, not being able to focus. She doesn't have the flame in the
Totally.
void. She's
Now,
clutching
listen,
at straws.
when she was
She's
waiting,
got a deceivious plan.
Yeah. The
yeah,
plan,
but
I
she
think,
was
is what
waiting
is,
for Gareth, waiting for judgment in that shed. She had a plan. She wasn't worried. She'll deal with this local lord. Like, she's the Emerald seat. Now she's in front of 6 Aes Sedai, being brought to the question. She's got a major plan that she needs all of these points to work. She needs them to. She needs to convince them all for her plan to work. She's under serious, there's serious stress going on now, and I think it's the stress
That's
just
the
making
only
her
thing-
sweat, not the heat.
that's the only thing I could think of, is that she is, she's all in.
Yeah.
It's a big hand. Yeah.
There's a lot of reference also being made to the way that she had treated Bryn on his last visit. When,
But she's
he
sweating
was-
before Gareth is mentioned. It's at the start of the chapter,
true,
the very first
true,
thing in the
true.
chapter. She's talking to the Aes Sedai.
Hmm.
Anyway, I thought that was odd.
Hmm.
2 more sisters are mentioned here, Movrin and Björnen. Movrin is loyal to Egwene and not really of much consequence, but Björnen,
She
she swears fealty to Egwene, and then she leads the negotiations against with the Tower initially, and later assumes a lesser role in that exchange. But later, when Egwene is captured, Björnen returns to the Tower, assuming that her oaths to Egwene are now void because Egwene is not the Amelin anymore, and her oaths were to the Amelin. And then she gives Elida the names of all the Salidar spies in the Tower, and she teaches Elida how to travel.
Fucking
Yeah, shit one.
not cool.
Yep.
Not cool, Björnen.
Her name stands
So-
out to me very, very much.
Yes, do not
I'm
like
writing
Björnen,
it
and
down.
these are the reasons. Yes, do.
Her name's going in my book.
Your bad book.
Yes, the book of assholes.
The naughty book. We also hear here that Alviarin had the charge of questioning Siuan. So no wonder it sounded like torture, right? It wasn't just Elida. It was Alviarin, who has no limits. In fact, in her own organization, is encouraged to torture.
Shit.
I made a note here that Siuan is so used to using other people. She even insists that the Aes Sedai use her. She shouts at them, "Use me!" You know, like, why are you people not using people? People are tools to be used. Use me.
She's just
Compulsive.
She just wants to get in. That's it.
Mm. And I guess as long as she has a use, she also doesn't have to face the fact that she's been stilled.
Yes.
You know, her whole identity now is around a sense of purpose and usefulness.
That's something to consider. I'm going to try and we should keep an eye on her if her mentality changes once she gets semi-healed again from the stilling. Let's see if she's not so keen on this being used.
Interesting,
anymore.
yes.
Mm.
Because we know that she does slip into grief for her warder again when she's healed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Let's keep an eye on that.
Mm. Put a pin in it. We haven't put a pin in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
I read up a bit about Aranvar, who's Sheriam's warder, because Sheriam is Black Arger. But it says that Aranvar's allegiance is unknown. I looked in a number of places online. It's never mentioned in any material or any supplementary material what his allegiance is. Something that is noteworthy is that he seems to be either unaware or did not care about the fact that Sheriam was periodically being beaten by Halima. So either Sheriam shielded her warder from the bond during those things, or he knew about it, or was complicit or something. I don't know, but no one really knows conclusively what Aranvar's deal is.
Look, my assumption, and you know how profound assumptions can be.
Oh, it's canon.
It's of course is that warders are always aware. How can you be a dark friend, a Black Arger member for 20 years and hide that from your warder through the warder bond?
My assumption.
You can try,
also,
but eventually it's gonna come out. So
yeah,
they got to be in on it.
On the flip side, Nuhal is awesome. Like we just said, you know, like the Twitter conversation you're talking about was Adrian that wrote into just, you know, talk about how great he is and to remind us that he obviously has a Mr. Krabs accent as well, being an alien.
Yeah.
I loved him. I love him in all his interactions. What else?
There's not too much that you can wring out of this chapter, I would say. Just happenings, talkings.
Yeah.
Nothing too.
No, well, exactly. I mean,
crazy about.
This is Siuan's plan being put into action. What she's been planning on these 15 days on the road, you know. So that's about faking the thing about Logain and the Red Arja, starting their own tower. Like a lot of, you know, she puts a lot of ideas in people's brains that are very, very important. So that's what we can take away from this chapter. And then at the end, she gets busted. Old Gareth comes in, fucks everything up.
Should we move on to chapter 28?
Let us, please.
Let's forge ahead then to chapter 28 called Trapped. Willie, why don't you take us through that one?
Now, start by the chapter called Trapped, because you'd think it is Siuan that is trapped, but it's actually poor Min. Poor Min.
I thought it was Gareth.
Well, we've got Gareth riding into the village now. Nuel has approached him and said to him, good day, sir. And recognition is there. They know who he is. He can see he is in a town full of Aes Sedai. And being the sharp man that he is, he puts one and one together very fast. And drops it just as quick to all of the Aes Sedai when he goes in to sit with Sheriam. As he walks in, he's been led to what is the inn. Now, before we get there, I'm just happy to report Gareth is a normal bloke again on a horse. He's not wearing any silks. He's lost his last silk. He's lost his floppy hat. All of the things that tried to make him into a retired lord. He is back on a horse. He's got a sword. He's got his sword gloves in the back of his sword belt. He is back on it. Uh, I'll say it again. He's back on it. He has been led to what is this in the hive of activity, and he spots Serenla sitting there. And Serenla, Min, sees him, and she shits herself. Now, he immediately assumes that the guy that's sitting with Serenla, because at this time he believes that's her name, is Dylan. And quite accurately, you've got Logan sitting at the table there, but Logan is now, he's pretty down in the slumps. He's pissed off because he's been lied to by Mara, who's Swan. Anywho, Gareth gets into the conversation with Aes Sedai. They are all too happy um, to accommodate him there, but the idea gets spun that he could be of service to them. But he's like, look, he's just after his oath breakers. And they're like, well, geez, how heavy is this oath? I mean, it's just a barn that was burned down. And Gareth is like, no, it's the principle behind it. She's still and needs to work off her debt. So an agreement is struck between the sisters and Gareth that Swan, and he's now informed that, FYI, Mara, who you are looking for, is Swan, and with her is Leanne and Min. He's quite surprised at that, and this brings back a lot of memories of what she did to him in the court when the Murundi raids was going on, and he wanted to just ride out and put a stop to it, but they had their own little agenda, the Aes Sedai. We will touch on that in a little bit. So they then also say, or they don't say, Gareth himself picks up on it that um, you are looking for somebody then to lead an army because you don't need fighters. You're asking me to stay around. You've got enough swords as it is, and this is the bit where Nuhil like sort of nods and smiles, like, yeah, no, swords are plenty, but they need someone that can lead an army or raise an army. And he pretty much says, well, fair enough. If this is what you want, it will be done in my way. You give the command to what it is you want achieved, but I set the orders of how it's done. I choose the men, I discipline the men. I am not changing, and if you cannot accept that, because that is how wars are lost, then I'm not the person. I'll ride away. Then you can look for someone else to do it. So he knows he's one of the five, and the rest aren't available. Uh, you know, so if you want the best, you must do some concessions. And the Aes Sedai women all get together, and they pretty much agree to his terms that if he will join them, because he pretty much laid it out there, you are if this is what I'm seeing, the tower is split. You guys are here. This is a complete split of the tower. I don't think he mentions anything about the Raid Sisters or all that, but it's good hiding.
Don't think so.
Yeah, good hiding place. No one's going to be looking for a bunch of sisters in Amadisia. It is interesting. So he's super sharp. He picks up on all of it quite quickly.
Doesn't he think to himself, Will, that like he never really liked Elida and he doesn't mind like sticking it to her as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. He doesn't give a damn about Elida. He's like he will,
because they were in Cairhien together and obviously did not get along.
No, not at all. I mean, I think Elida probably is not liked by anyone. So you you got that fact in there as well. But yeah, he didn't get along with her at all. Now, while the Aes Sedai are having their little powwow, Gareth gets to have a little chat to Swan, and he's still thinking like, what is he chasing her for? Is it just for her blue eyes, or is it for an oath? I think there's a lot of sort of inner monologue about himself, like, why is he doing this? But now he realizes, oh, this young girl is actually just a couple of years younger than him and just looks, at 20 years younger. So, well, he must think win-win. I might pursue. Sorry, just catching up on my notes here. He has the discussion with Siuan about the disagreement that they had in the court of Cairhien when she was there. And he is still very upset about that. And she finally gives him the explanation that the tower had a young lord, Darwin or someone, that they were going to put in place and sort of to unite that Murrundi Lugard area. And he asks, okay, well, how did your plan go? And she's like, no, he died a couple of months later, shot by a
in a raid.
And
she made Bryne not intervene in the raids so that the guy could, gather his support, and then he died in a raid.
Yep.
And Bryne has this like
he laughs out loud
now, going,
he laughs out loud like. So now the Aes Sedai then concedes to like, look, Siuan does have a role to play with them, and when they don't need her, he's welcome to have her as he put it, his dog rubber. And Siuan is like furious about this. That like she's not stoked about it. She's like, how many years? 20 years I'm gonna have to work for you to work off this debt or whatever. So they struck their accord, and now we jump to Min's point of view as Gareth walks into the inn. She's like, oh damn, here he is. She just wants Logain. Okay, don't talk to anyone. You just stay where you need to stay. Stay quiet. I'll be back right soon. She needs to speak to Siuan about this. Now, when she does catch up to Siuan, and Siuan had also joined them, saying like, just you don't say a single thing, Logain. Which now after you said it, Moritz, this blends in with her trying to make up a story. Like I didn't think it at all in the beginning. It's just kind of they want to control his narrative of everything. They want to be in control of this, but I didn't think that it's comes out of a point of dishonesty or lying.
Yeah. You see, I don't know. Like, you could argue it both ways, but it is very ambiguous about whether it's the truth or not. You're quite right. I also initially thought they just want to make sure that he doesn't say the wrong thing to the wrong person, or like let the cat out of the bag, or show their cards too soon, that sort of thing. But it could also be conceivable that they are just straight up lying and don't want to be caught out.
Now, in all of this, Logain is at an all-time low. It seems like he's just staring into blank space. But he's now learned that Mara is Siuan, and he's actually seriously pissed off about this. Like he couldn't even help them on the road, and they still deceived him all the way. So we'll have to see his mood hopefully change soon. Min joins up with Siuan, and at this stage now already, Gareth had given Siuan some laundry to do, as she's now his handmaid, and all that she does is pass it off on Min, and Min's like, oh fuck, this every job that she has, she's just gonna pass on to me. It's like, there you go and do some laundry. So yeah,
annoying.
Very, very annoying. So I think that is pretty much the crux of it in that chapter. There's obviously a lot of discussion, and I'm not going to verbatim go through everything. Anything you guys want to add in there?
Not an awful lot, just little bits and pieces. How about you, Joe?
No, I'm cool. Moritz, go for it.
I liked the comments, like some of the inner monologue from Gareth, and one of them was when he sees the water, he goes, he knew the man for a water within him taking 2 strides. And I thought to myself, probably sooner. You could probably look at a water standing still and go, yep, that's a water.
Yeah.
Old pro.
Those color changing cloaks kind of give it away, Look, there's like a severed head floating across the courtyard. That's definitely a water.
Could be a water. I also laughed at how he refers to Leanne as that willowy Domani minx.
But he makes a really good comment there as well, that she's a little bit better. Like she's worked off all the rust on their
she's improved
15-day travels.
Yeah. And Phil, I think you mentioned this as well, but when he says to the Aes Sedai, you certainly don't need an extra sword or two, and then he's eyeing, I think it was Dromond, who was another water standing in the room, who then gives Gareth a nod in return. And I just thought that's such a cool, like, soldier to soldier exchange. Like, they don't have to say anything, but Dromond says, okay, cool, I acknowledge that you know that we can handle ourselves, thank you. And Gareth also immediately starts planning. Like, he can't help himself. He's barely said yes, and he's already thinking, okay, cool, this is what's going to happen, blah, 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 like already rattling off these things. We saw hints of that earlier. Remember when he like got caught wind of things happening, and then he has to stop himself, like, no, this is not your responsibility anymore.
Yep.
But here, he's now been given the responsibility straight up, and he's ready to roll.
He's all too stoked about that. I mean, he knows what's waiting back at home for him, sitting and being a lord with people arguing about a stolen cow and having to deal out punishment and crap like that. Yes. Plus, he's got to wear silk and stupid floppy hats. He's like, screw this. I'm going to go for another campaign.
I think my last note was just, again, being annoyed at Siuan for just palming off all her jobs to Min.
Yeah.
Like, Siuan, where do you get off?
She needs
Protective over Min, I guess.
Get put into her place. But I think that comes with Gareth in the later chapters. He humbles her a little bit.
Yeah, because she does go back to doing her work herself, as I recall.
Does she?
Yes. I say with false certainty.
Well, I bloody hope so. It's her job.
It is her job.
She led them down that oath path.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway for me from this chapter is no more stupid hat. That's I think what Jordan was trying to get across.
No, the hat was out in another chapter already last time. This time it's the silken shirt.
What's the other thing that Gareth tells Nuhal to say to the men, that he was sent by a Domani woman or something like that, because otherwise the men would pull him full of arrows or something? Like, they've got this code word to know that Gareth actually did send them.
Yep.
Otherwise they'd kill the guy. And Nuhal's like, okay, cool, thank you, thanks for the heads up. Because those geriatric soldiers do not mess about.
No, I don't recall.
Okay, I think Salidar is done for now. Hey?
Yep, let's get out of Salidar.
Where are we going now?
Well, Salidar now has, they've reclaimed their old Amelin as a collectible, and they've got themselves a brand new shiny general. And from there, we're going to move back to Rand and his crew.
Oh, off to Cairhien then. All right.
All right. In that case, let's go on to chapter 29 then, called Memories of Saldaea. Mo, take it away. Thanks, I will. Okay, so I'm going to be honest here, full disclosure. Most of this summary comes straight from the Tarvalon library. I did not re-summarize the chapter because it is extremely short. It's only 5 pages, and I just wanted to hit the beats, and I editorialized slightly, but like I said, the bulk of it comes straight off there. So we join Hadnan Kadere, who's in his wagon thinking about the note, or a note that he found slipped under his door that said, "You are not alone among strangers. A way has been chosen," which leads him to think that there were dark friends among the Aiel. There were many among every people, but he doesn't particularly want to meet them. And then he thinks one of the chosen, maybe, because of the word chosen that was used in that note. That could indicate that some of the other some other chosen other than Lanfear was interested in him. But that could be very dangerous. Kadere thinks back to his childhood in Salidar and his sister, who taught him his first letters and numbers, setting us up here. Like, I mean, you can see this coming a mile away. Like, oh, his sister, someone he's fond of, this terrible dark friend. Okay. But then Isandre comes in dressed in her heavy black robes, and Kadere knows that under there she's probably naked, and he offers her, like, oh, if it's too hot, take off your robes if you want. And he asks her if she has anything to report on Rand or Natal, and she tells him that Natal won't tell her anything. Also, apparently, that all Natal wants to do is make love, so apparently Natal is also taking advantage of Isandre, yeah? But she says that she can't get anywhere near Rand. And when Kadere presses her to try harder, she shows him what the maidens did to her. They'd shaved her head, including her eyebrows, and flogged her with nettles. And it seems like the maidens have broken her. So next time, they promised her she would be given to Aviendha. She's been bedding Rand since Ruidian, and she tells Kadere that Aviendha's sleeping with Rand since Ruidian. And the mere mentioning of her is to make her flinch. So Isandre does not want to cross paths with Aviendha. She's obviously been witness to some of her, let's call it more fiery temper outbursts. Kadere sees that she will be of no further use to him. You can see that she's broken, and he tells her to keep an eye on Natal at least. And when she's about to leave, he just straight up pulls his handkerchief around her neck and strangles her to death. And like always, when he strangles a woman, implying that he's often strangling women, which is pretty rough, he thinks of his sister, even with his eyes open. So, like if his eyes were closed, his mind could easily wander. But even with his eyes open, looking at something, he can see his sister, which you can then sort of figure out by adding 1 + 1. He had killed his sister after she found out what he was, that being a dark friend. Still thinking of his sister, he starts to dispose of the body by chopping it up while humming a tune his sister taught him. Cool guy, Hadnan Kadere.
He is a
section
piece of work.
Of the murder is incredibly hectic. Like,
It's
just
rough,
how
eh?
calm and calculated he is. He gives her like sort of, okay, cool, see what you can do about Natal, get in there. And she's like, well, my whole body is red and I'm so sore. And as she turns out sobbing and wants to walk out, he just spins his handkerchief like I would flick and spin a tea towel after doing some.
Yeah.
And around the neck, and no, nothing. Just cool. Gets a knife. I'll just chop up this body. It's easier to get rid of a body like this. No one will miss her. They'll think she ran
Inside
away.
a wagon, it would get so bloody in there.
Especially
He
the
needs,
line where it's like,
he needs some of Woo's
dead
pigs.
body doesn't bleed as much. Now, my remembering watching Dexter, dead bodies bleed a lot. So I don't know.
Also, she hasn't been dead for very long, Hadnan. Like, you immediately start chopping her up. I mean, the blood is still coursing through her veins. It's still in motion. But it's quite a disturbing scene, eh? Like, he's thinking back to his sister, and you can sort of see it coming. Know, oh God, he's talking about his sister. He obviously murdered her. But then, like, going as far as like humming a tune that she had taught him, and seeing her face, as he always does when he strangles women.
Which he did.
Rough.
Yeah, oh man, that's just some
rough,
some heavy horror shit.
I think does make one. Sorry, Joe, you go.
No, I'm just saying that it's it'll be over soon because we're pretty much certain that he gets skinned alive pretty soon by Lanfear, right?
I was convinced it was
he gets what's coming.
That got skinned.
Well, clearly not.
Yeah, well.
No, she gets strangled and chopped into little pieces.
And we've had this conversation before. Like, there was a much earlier episode when we meet Kadere. I speculate about, doesn't he get beheaded or something? And then in the next callback, I say, oh no, he gets skinned by Lanfear when he tells Lanfear that Rand is sleeping with Aviendha, which he learns here, or he thinks he learns here. Like, I mean, for another chapter or two, he'll be wrong, and then he'll be right.
He's almost right.
Yeah. He does say at one point that the Dark Friend work in Tarvalon was always important and invigorating, which is, it's cool because it being obviously like an Aes Sedai center means that Darkfriend work there would have to be. But it's also kind of unsettling knowing that there is Darkfriend work happening there. I mean, ignore the Black Arger work that we are well aware of.
Yeah.
But like, common Darkfriends are operating in Tarvalon. Obviously they are, because they are everywhere. But it's just another little reminder that they are absolutely everywhere.
And we know who that dark friend is.
We do?
Which one? You got to narrow it down.
Yeah, man. Matt's girlfriend.
Yes, that's what I thought.
Mm.
The one that put the note under his door.
Yes.
I thought it was Melindra.
Melindra.
Oh, I think that's Melindra.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
No, definitely.
We're all on the same page.
Oh, yeah. Well, I say, oh, yeah, as if we all know for sure, but I'm going to channel Jody's false bravado again. So, yeah, obviously it's Melindra. We all know that. Okay, well, that's a short little interstitial horror story. Why don't we move straight along into chapter 30 called A Wager? Take it away, Willie.
And this is a heavy wager. Like, you think Matt can gamble, try and take on a freaking Aiel. Anyway, Rand has now fled to just get away from Moraine. Moraine's, she's just continuous. So now he's in the whatever town they are. I think it's Ianrod? Yeah, something with a rod.
I forget.
And he's sitting on the little stone bridge over the river, and he's just wanting to enjoy his time at the river there. And then two of his evening guard, Siuan and some of her maidens, pull up. Now, Inila and Adlin is still not there, and he's like, "Hey, what's happening with those two? I haven't seen them around. Are they sick or whatever?" And Siuan says, no, they'll join us again when they learn to stop playing with dolls. And Rand's like, well, tell them they're bloody grown-ups and stop playing with dolls and get back to it. And Siuan's like, yeah, don't worry, they will. Now, it's Rand sort of at that time thinks, okay, cool, well, let's retire for the night. But they Ryder's coming. And Rand immediately wants to go for his sword, but he realizes he doesn't have his sword on him because still the Aiel is not too. They're already upset that there's a sword on his horse when he's riding, so he doesn't carry the sword with him. But his honor guard is there, and they veil up. But it turns out that, or Rand says, "Okay, well, take it easy," because they're not charging or anything. Let's just have a look, and it's Estian. The Terrenian lordling that likes to gamble with his mates. And they're quite stoked to see it's Rand, and with them is some Cairhien lordlings that they pretty much treat like crap, which isn't cool. But Rand basically asking, okay, what's happened in Camelin? And they're like, look, this Shaido guy
in Cairhien.
I was about to say that.
Is there. He's sort of besieging the city, but they reckon they can still hold out for 12 days or so. And Rand knows, okay, well, he's 7 days ahead. They've got a 7-day ride there, and Estienne and them are like, that's never going to happen. You're never going to move an army in that time across all of this. And Rand's like, you know nothing, Jon Snow. To that, the other, what's his name now? Was it Edoran? Edorian. He's kind of like, well, my Lord Dragon, would you like to take a wager on that for 1,000 golden crowns? And Rand's like, man, I've never even seen 1,000 crowns, so I'm not going to take a wager. But Siuan just like, yep, we'll take the wager, but not 1,000, 10,000 by weight. And he's like, whoa, that's a good bet. So you can imagine how quick the Aiel's going to move now. And as these young lords depart to go back with the news that, okay, Rand is on the way with a whole army, he looks at the man. He's like, where are you getting this money? It's like, well, I'll remember now. You get a fifth, and the fifth you get a 10th of as the battle leader. And that is all the riches that's in the Stone of Tear. So you have a lot of money that we've not carried away yet. So don't you worry. you've got wealth. Plus, they know they're not going to lose this wager either way. They're going to win it. Rand decides then, okay, fine. I've had enough of this night out here. I'm going to go and get some sleep. He moves off, and tonight it's not in a tent. He's actually in a building, and they've managed to find him a cot and some mattresses. And he was one step ahead of the maidens this time round, that he also called it the roof of the brothers of the wine spring. And unless you've drunk out of the wine spring, there's no way that you are allowed in under that roof. So the guy shines there, they're setting it up. The maidens aren't stoked with it.
So you're not keeping them out.
No, they just going to be sitting at the door. They're not allowed in. Very, very bleak about that. And Rand goes in to his room, opens the door, and what does he find? In his mind, he was prepared to have a night away from Aviendha. He doesn't have to listen to her heartbeat. He doesn't have to listen to her breathe and starts mind-running fantasies about her taking off her stockings and all the rest. He's going to have a night without her there, and she's going to sleep in a tent. But as he opened the door, there she is standing in a birthday suit, and she had decided to now have a bath because she couldn't put up a sweat tent in the village. And she's frozen, like, don't know what to do, stuttering, and Rand doesn't know what to do. Stuttering is like, all he can see is a glistening body that's moist and sweaty and wet. And
Jesus Christ, Billy. Our sauciest team member coming through there.
well,
you gave him the chapter.
she's having a bath. Well, I don't know. She's standing and having
Yes,
a bath.
not in
She hasn't learned to sit down in
Yeah.
a bath yet, so she's just having a wash. But she is now flipping out, and she's like, "I didn't mean for you to see me." Obviously, that's what Aiel women do if they want to lead you into
What are you
temptation.
doing
They
in
make
his bedroom naked then?
Yeah.
Anyway, well, there she was, and she starts panicking, and without knowing, she opens up a gateway and flees. And I think that's where this chapter ends.
Does she say to him, like, I need to get as far away from you as
Possible.
possible or
Yes.
something? Or even like the other side of the planet? Like, she
She
cannot
needs
be far
to get
enough
away.
from
She
him.
needs to get away, and she completely panics out, and she runs Starkers out in through the portal or travel hole.
The gateway. Travel hole.
He's not wrong.
It
It is a
is.
hole
It's
for
a travel
traveling.
hole. But I
Yes.
think that's where that one ends, and it will flow into the next one. So do you want me just to go into the next one? We break them
Vinny, I
down
think you've actually gone into the next one already.
already.
Yes.
Like, does the next chapter start when he walks into the
When he
room and
walks
sees
in, yes, that's right.
Into the roof of the Wine Spring Brothers.
That's it.
Yeah, that is so lame and so childish. And the maidens look at him like just rolling their eyes, like, fine, fuck, whatever. What are you, 5? Okay, we'll stay out.
That's the start of chapter 31, The Far Snows.
Yes.
So you've already gone into that one. Okay, why don't you finish The Far Snows and then we'll talk about a wager and The Far Snows
Okay.
together.
Oh, dude. Okay.
I like this
just keep
chapters flowing into each other. You can tell the whole story better.
Clearly.
Oh yeah, you can see I'm on a roll. So Rand channels. He doesn't know what he's channeling, but he can't let her run into the middle of a snowstorm, and that much he had seen. Whatever he channels holds the gateway open, and he dives through, and he realized, like, holy shit, we're in a blizzard. Luckily, before he dove through, he grabbed the bundles, which was her clothes and the blanket, and it's like, this will be needed. Good on you, Rand. So he is in pursuit, and the snow is like thick. It is blizzard conditions. He doesn't know where they are. He can just see her a little bit in the distance front, and he sets chase, and he decides he needs to do something to get through the snow faster. He eventually decides, okay, cool, let's melt the snow, and he channels some heat in front of him, melts the snow in his way, and cool, he gets to get up, and the next minute he lost her. She disappeared. Rand then realizes when he gets to the proximate area by feeling the cracking of the ice underneath. Okay, he's above the water, so it's either a lake or a river or whatever. And he gets to the point where Aviendha had fallen through the ice. He has to get down and reaches in with his hand. He gets a handful of her hair, and he thinks like, damn, I don't want to scratch her body up on the sharp ice because she is run into there in the birthday suit. But he gets her out and picks her up, and it's like, okay, cool. First thing we need is shelter. At least Lance's got some snow knowledge, it seems. And he starts channeling, and he basically builds an igloo uh, so that they are sheltered from the wind. In said igloo, he channels again something that Asmodean had taught him that would heat the air around them, but he doesn't want to tie it off because the last thing he wants is for the whole thing to melt, but it already feels a hell of a lot warmer in there. Rand decides then to strip down his half-wet clothes as well because, when someone falls into an icy river, the best thing is to get naked with them and hold them closely. This is true.
Science.
Share the body heat. He covers everything that they have, and he holds her, and he just starts professing. It's like, I'll send you away. Please just don't run away from me. Like, this is silliness. Like, I'll send you back to Radian if that's what you want, and I will tell the wise ones that can't make you sleep in my room anymore because you're obviously not enjoying this. But just he could hear she's breathing at least, and she's starting. And the next minute she comes by and also grabs him by his hair at that stage, and says like she can't fight this anymore. She's been running. She promised her near sister that she would look after him, but she can't fight this anymore. And he's like, what? Wait, what? And she then grabs with his other hand the other side of his head and hair, and she pulls him in for a big fat bash. 3 hours later.
Yeah, it's literally 3 hours.
Literally 2, 3. Who doesn't know?
Canon.
The inside of this igloo has now melted into a nice smooth wall from all the steamy 3 hours that went down. Now, this is the first time in the book that Rand gets to have coitus.
Can you say that in a less gross way?
This is the first time in the book where Rand has intercourse with a lady.
Where he has sex.
Okay.
Yes, you can say the word sex.
Oh, yeah, I suppose I can. Yes, so this is the first time he has sex with someone. Matt has been frequenting as many girls as he likes. But did Rand just lose his virginity?
Yep.
Okay, I thought so. Now, in his mind, we got to get married. So
Yes.
we're going to go back
Hilarious.
to the
well, we have to marry now.
Yeah, it's like we have to. But back home, when the wise ones caught this one and that one together, the quickest they could pull a marriage together was a month. But two of them still couldn't sit for a week after their wedding. How they were given hiding for yeah. Anyway, he has to figure out now where they are, and before that, Aviendha's also straight up like, no, this won't happen again. I now have toe towards Elaine, and you won't be speaking to the wise ones because don't be so forward as to think you can tell me I'll be marrying. Like, men don't ask. My culture's different. So Rand is like, wait, I thought this sort of cleared everything up for us, but clearly didn't. And he realizes it's going to be an even harder time going forward now. It's like, okay. But they're getting dressed. He's feeling awkward that she's waiting for him to get dressed and stand up so that she can watch him now get dressed. He had such a nice time watching her getting dressed. But yeah, Rand's up. he breaks.
He gets up and he goes, fair's
It's
fair.
fair.
Yeah.
There we go. Chapter ends. Rand is dressed.
Yeah, okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. Let's talk a bit about Rand and Aviendha's tryst here. I think it was like a week or two ago, Kerry had also written into me and asked me the same question, Vinny. Was this Rand's first time? Because he doesn't seem to make too much of a big deal about it. Like, they seem very kind of chill the next day. Did you guys
I think Rand does make a
think
big
anything like that?
deal about it, waking up the next morning and proposing marriage that night. So
Yeah, okay, yeah, that is a big
yes,
deal.
that is a very big deal. Like he's
Yes.
full. What is very unrealistic to me is that if this is his first time, that he had a 3-hour sesh, because it said 3 minutes later, then I would be like, yeah,
He is
that's
the
a
dragon
little bit.
reborn, you know.
Yeah, he's still a 20-year-old.
Yeah, he assumed the void the whole time. Well, look, I mean, it doesn't mean that they actively had sex for 3 hours. They could have just had sex and spent 3 hours cuddling.
Yeah, that's also true.
No, he's the dragon reborn.
But he
It was 3
lost
hours
the
straight.
void
A lot of faith in our boy.
when Aviendha grabbed him by the hair and kissed him. Immediately the void shattered.
Yeah.
So he was like, "There's no protection of that."
No, they call it the end of rational thought. I might notice,
Yes.
like, yep, we all know that feeling.
That's why I have 3 kids. Yeah, I know.
Did you guys, I mean, do you think it's Aviendha's first time?
I think so too, yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No? What evidence do you have to support that, Willie?
Well, the maidens are very forward
Yeah.
and
She was a maiden.
liberated. The Aiel generally are sexually liberated in a way that the wetlanders definitely are not, and most
That
of
is
our
true.
Western society also is not. I don't know. I was trying to pick up in sort of what she was saying, and she was, I mean, because there's no talk about getting married or anything like that. The only thing that is holding me back is maybe Aviendha's age, but then again, teenagers, man. Like, I mean, teenagers are just
Horn dogs, a lot of them.
putting the adults to shame.
Listen, there is one line. She says, like, when she looks at him, she goes, when he's all chilled out, she goes, oh, right, like, why won't you get up and get dressed? She had heard that men get lazy after.
Yes.
She had heard it. She had not
Okay.
experienced it.
That's true, Joe. That's right. Okay,
There
cool.
you go.
Okay. That's her first
I'm
time
glad
as well.
that's sorted. There you go.
But then, that just lends more credibility to Kerry's point. Like, she also seems, I don't know, they just seem very
Nonchalant
unfazed.
about it.
I
Because
mean,
they're
yes,
meant for
Rand
each
offered to
other, man.
marry, but yeah,
Fantasy books.
I guess,
Destiny.
yeah, true. That'll just explain away everything.
It
There you go.
probably wouldn't been a great story if they both woke up the next morning. They were too ashamed to look at each other, and Rand feeling more shame than Aviendha.
Well, he did a bit. Like, when he gets up and he says, "Okay, well, I guess I also have to sort of get dressed in front of her." He's sort of taken aback that I think she makes a comment about his butt or something, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Women didn't look at men that way, did they?" Yes, Rand. Of course they did. They're red-blooded people, like they also have opinions about people's bodies and have sexual thoughts. Of course they do. So yeah, he is showing his naivete. Aviendha says to him in that conversation as well that when he's sort of looking at her aghast because she's very flippant about the marriage thing, she says to him, "You look like that fish that Moiraine caught." Moraine's been fishing again.
I was about to say, in the waist? No.
Not in the waist, maybe. It's
No,
on
obviously
his
since they
back.
crossed into
Since,
the wetlands.
like,
but
since entering Cairhien. Ah, right, no. Yeah, you can't stop Moraine.
Well, she got over eating
even
snakes.
when she's like desperate for Rand's attention and begging him to speak to him about like really important stuff, she finds time to go fishing.
Well, she learnt a lot from Siuan. They spent a lot of time together. Some of that fishing,
And she does cheat.
Yes.
that love for fishing. Yeah, she's totally cheating.
Yeah. Sorry, Volvo, what were you saying there?
That Aviendha also was gonna say that she wants to follow the wetland away and wait for a year at that stage as well.
only because it's convenient for her to then not have to sleep with Rand or try and make a move and maybe speak to Elaine. She also makes a comment about, what does she say about, like, since your father is dead? She sort of says offhandedly that means something as well.
Yeah, you gotta have you ask his near brother, and he's not available. So in that
Yes.
case, we'll just have to wait the year.
So that'd be Janduin that she's referring to. His biological father.
Yes, not Tam.
Yeah. Because when I read that, my first thought was like, Tam? No, Tam's not dead. And then, oh, wait, yeah, no, actually. But to me, Tam is Rand's dad.
Well, yeah, no, to us
That's
that
his
is his
father.
father, but
Of
to the
course.
Aiel, they know, and she's been privy to the whole story of who his blood parents are.
Yeah, she
So,
has.
and
Yeah.
his mom being a maiden, I mean, that's her story to him.
Yeah. You guys want to say anything else about the igloo scene? I mean, it's a pretty big moment for Rand and for the story. But I've got other stuff to talk about the other chapter that really breezed straight through
Sorry.
into the next
I just got on a roll.
Was it just
I was so excited about just talking the story that I just didn't want to stop.
was it just me, or did you guys also hear like that sexy guitar music in the background the entire time that Billy was speaking?
No, it's just
The
you.
Barry White
just
music.
me. All right. Barry White. Yeah, that's it.
In the previous chapter, the way more boring stuff about the Terrans and Cairhenians and the little bridge. Rand's sitting on the edge of the bridge, and I mean they're nearing Cairhien, but he's watching the water flowing north, which is away from the ocean, which I thought was interesting. I guess, I mean, rivers can bend and that sort of thing. It just, I don't know, struck me as odd. Mentioning the cardinal direction in which the river is flowing, to me, implies the river in general is flowing in that direction. But that is semantics, pedantry
that is
at its best.
beyond
so we can
pedantry.
move along. I'll let that dog lie.
I can actually explain that. I'm looking at the map right now. There is a little tributary just through when you get past Jangai Pass that flows north and then joins the greater, what's the name of that river? Hang on. Gagen? I don't know. I'm not wearing my glasses.
I guess I could have looked at a map as well, but chose to be a dick about it.
Yeah, this is not a very well printed out map I have here. But yeah, there is a little tributary that runs north directly and then joins up.
Right.
So it's not crazy.
Right. Moraine resorting to begging Rand. That's hectic.
She's been doing it for a while.
But I mean, yeah, it's just, it's so far removed from what you know of Moraine. More than any other Aes Sedai.
It's like it's that Rand can't put this together because he's got all the words there. He says like, this is so unlike her. This is not her serenity that he's used to. Why? And he's running away from it, thinking, oh, she's just being pestilent. But she knows what's coming, and she wants to get him trained up for what he needs to do. So yeah.
And doesn't he also say that she's like, it's almost like she's fighting against a deadline or something?
Yes.
Like he is that close to the truth that he's thinking the actual reality out loud.
When it comes to a lot of very basic things, Rand sometimes is just a bit of a woolhead. So
Yeah.
When it comes to
Sure
anything
is.
related to women, that's it.
Yes.
Rand has no brain or thoughts.
well, we lasted 3
Anything
hours.
that's not
So
sheep herding or archery.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite creepy that Rand knows about Semirog's lack of skill at manipulating weather. It's like, ugh, okay, yeah, there's some more
Even
Lutheran
he thinks
memories
it's
coming
creepy.
through. He does. He says as much. But what's rad and not creepy is that the Sharad and Goshin blood feud has been mended. Yay for Gaul and
there was a
Chayad.
whole heap of stuff there. But Gol and so Ruach and the Sharad clan chief Jenduin something. Anyway, yeah,
Janduin? No, that's his dad. That's Rand's dad.
What was the anyway? Whatever it is, we'll fix it in a callback. But even they themselves, even you have to, it's like a water oath, and you have to hold the cup for the other one to drink out of. They did all of that, and
Yes.
it's kind of like in a daze, like, what are we doing here? They are so influenced by his Taveran nature. People falling into pits of vipers and gets bitten all over but survive. And then the saddle maker, he survived the whole attack in the Shaido, and he falls on level ground and breaks his
Yes.
neck.
On like soft grass. Yeah.
Yeah.
The clan chief of the Sharad is
Geran.
Geran. Yeah. What else? Idorian and Estian both joined the Band of the Red Hand.
Mm-hmm. Later on.
Yeah. They were the dudes that were gambling with Matt.
At the table, yeah. Estian is High Lord Torian's son, the sort of farmer-looking young lord with a big nose. He looks like a peasant, but obviously behaves like a lordly shitbag. But Idorian is the guy that was at the table who noticed that Estian and some of the other lords' language was triggering Matt, and he was trying to steer the conversation away from it. But Estian, who even in this scene is also a bit of a tool, he has command of the band during the final battle.
Oh, wow, he comes up in the world, eh?
He really does. And those two Cairhien lordlings, Willie, the one, you don't hear what happens to him after the scene, but the other one is called Darakain, and he also joins the band, and in the final battle he's a captain in the Band of the Red Hand.
Yeah,
so 3 of the 4 of these guys.
And Darisian. Darakain, sorry.
What about the 4th guy? He just dies. No one ever hears from him again.
You don't ever read about him again.
All right.
Don't know.
He doesn't make it out of the siege of Cairhien.
maybe not.
No.
I'm quite looking forward to the Siege of Cairhien.
Me too. I'd totally forgotten about that. I literally had completely forgotten that that Couladin.
And that's where Couladin dies. Yes, exactly. At the hands of Matt.
Ah, is it happening that soon?
It's in this book.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Now I really can't wait.
What was also really rad is that in this town, which has been it's been ravaged by the civil war and unrest in Cairhien, not just the Shaido. In fact, I don't think the Shaido had much to do with what the state of this town actually is at the moment. But Lan he was able to chart the flows of battle in town by looking at the damage and stuff. He could sort of say, okay, well, this is what happened here, this is what happened there, which is awesome. Old forensic scientist Lan.
Yeah.
Ultimate tracker.
Could he smell what happened through the burnt wood?
Not the burnt fades, just the burnt humans.
He just, different burning smells. He's very familiar with it.
And the last one I had here is, I think it's when Rand is sort of musing about how, like, even with his roof of the Winespring brothers, of course the guy Shane still just come in and do their thing, because trying to get them to serve or not to serve according to custom is like kicking a bale of wool. As soon as your foot leaves, that just springs back, it doesn't do anything. And I just thought this was another cool example of Robert Jordan using the specific point of view to sort of flavor the language with, something that's relevant to that character. If it's a soldier, it's something military based, and when it's Rand, it's something obviously sheep herder based. Kicking a bale of wool is the analogy that Rand would go for. Yeah, okay. And after that, it's snow snakes and on with our lives.
Yeah, after all that waiting, there it's over, finished.
Oh, very much like the real thing.
Speak for yourself.
Okay, well then, why don't we do our final chapter for this evening? The 7th chapter we're covering here. We're doing well, guys. Well done. Chapter 32 is called A Short Spear. Take it away, Jody.
Thank you, sir. Yes. So after Rand and Aviendha have basked in the afterglow, they get dressed, of course, and he uses the one power to create a hole in their shelter, and like a tool, he cuts it, and then he pushes his back against it and his feet, and he tries to push it out, and then that falls out, and he falls on his back, kind of, and he's just thinking afterwards, like, oh, I suppose I could have used the one power to just make a hole and push the block out of the way. I'm like, yes, dude, sometimes use your brain. So yeah, he still doesn't quite get what he could do with the power. He's like, just a few books ago, he was trying to bring a child back from the dead in the Stone of Tyr. Now he can't open a hole in ice. So anyway, he realizes his idiocy at that point as well. But while he's lying there on his back, looking up at the sky, he sees a flying beast passed over them. What are those things called?
Recon?
It's not the toe recon. The toe recon's the big one.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. So it could have been either one of them because there were two people on its back. So it might have been a toe recon. But anyway, their arrival has not gone unnoticed. People realized there was shit happening here. When Aviendha opened up that gateway, it used a lot of power. And since they are in Seanchan, I don't know if we've mentioned this up to this point.
We haven't even said it. No.
I haven't even said it yet. As everyone that's listening to this podcast has already read the books. They know they're in Seanchan. And if you didn't notice it, the huge toe recon flying over his head has now given it away. So anyway, when Aviendha opened up that gateway, it drew a lot of attention. There were a lot of power-sensitive women around who felt that. And there's a massive search going on for them at the moment. So he notices this and he's like, "Oh shit! Okay, we've got a problem on our hands. We need to get back to that gateway." Aviendha can still feel it. I think so can Rand as well, because he left that weave in place to hold the gate open.
Oh yeah.
So they know in which direction they need to go, but they're going to have to get there, stealthily. They're going to have to sneak because there's things in the sky and people are looking for them. So they wrap themselves up in some blankets and off they go. But by the time they get there, they find that the way through is blocked. There's around another 20 people. I know it's always 20. I don't know what these chapters are on about. It's the old soldiers were 20 and now another 20. And there are also a couple of women with them. So we know there's some Damane there as well. There's at least two of them with their Suldam. There's also a high lady and there's a seeker. There's some top brass happening there and around 20 other soldiers. So it's quite a force. But before they can see Rand and Aviendha see them. So they stop a little bit back and they formulate a little plan about what they're going to do to get through here. So Rand asks Aviendha if she could shield the Damane, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, of course, and I can." He's like, "But can you, do two at the same time?" And she's like, "Yeah, Egwene taught me some tricks." It's like, "Ah, sweet. Egwene and her have been sharing some tips and tricks, so now she knows how to split her flows and she can do it quite easily." And Rand says, "Okay, you just take care of those two and I'll take care of the rest." And she looks at him kind of like, cocky. "You're full of it, aren't you?" And he's, but to him he's like, "Totally, I can quite easily. I can't, but I mean, giving her some credit, he couldn't open an ice door 5 seconds ago, but now he's going to take on a contingent of 20 men and the rest of them with the power. So it is understandable. But he does do it, and she does do it. So of course, nothing stands in their way. They are able to block the others, and he binds the others, and he wraps everybody up in flows of air. He doesn't even know how he does it. Once again, very handy. But they manage to do it, and they make their way out to the gateway, all up in the open, no worries whatsoever. Rand looks at that weave, and it's gone all grey, like the gateway that he left open. He can't see through it again. So now he's wondering, oh shit, what happened here? He can see another weave on top of his weave. So it's again a male channeler at least. So is it Asmodean? Have they been attacked? Was it another Forsaken? But regardless, they can't stay here. This is not going to happen. They have to go through whatever the choice is. Well, there is no choice basically. But he does want to save these two Damane. So he wants to open their collars and take them with, because they're obviously slaves. But they are not stoked at all, because as soon as he touches the collars, they sense what he is, and they start freaking out and crying. And also he gets a shock. He can't touch the collars at all. He can't open them. So he asks Aviendha if she won't mind, having a look and see if she can take the collars off, because these women are slaves and he wants to save them and take them back. They're not, he can turn them, and, the whole thing that he's got about not wanting women to die. So he wants to save these two as well. But while she's working, Aviendha that is, he has a little chat with one of the Seanchan, with one of them named Lady Morsa. She recognizes Rand. She knows who he is. She was at Felmay. And when Rand finds this out, that she knows who he is, he's like, well, you've seen what I can do. You just keep calm, let us go, and there won't be a repeat of that whole scenario. So he learns, of course, that they have fled, but that they are not gone, that they are still out there. What the other Seanchan that's with it is a seeker for the truth. I think I couldn't make this up. I think it's another woman, right? Jaladin?
I think so.
I think it's two women. Who has some questions about Felmay for Lady Morso. When all of this comes out, this truth seeker's like, wait, what now? What, you were there? You know this guy? You know what's happening? And Lady Morso does not want to talk about this. But now, of course, that the seeker of the truth has this information. Too bad, you're going to talk about it now. The seeker actually announces to everybody around them, like, from now on,
basically
this woman is now under arrest. She is, I am going to be putting her to the question. I've just learned some shit. So she's like, you could see her body language, even though she's wrapped up in air. She just slumps like, oh, fuck. I'm fucked now.
I think it's just the flows of air that are actually keeping her up now.
Yeah, no shit. But as well, Aviendha's been working for a while with this conversation. She's got no luck freeing the Damane, and Rand can see the gateway shrinking little bit by little bit. Time is taking its toll. Can't stay open forever. They've got to make a decision. So they decide they're going to leave the Damane behind. They can't save them. Anyway, the Damane don't want to be saved. They are freaking out. They're crying. One of them is young and one of them is much older, but both of them are begging for mercy, tears streaming down their faces. So anyway, they have to leave them. So Rand's telling her, like, all right, we're going to have to release the flows, obviously, to be able to jump through this gateway. So everyone's going to be ready to kill us that very second it happens. So let's move. Let's coordinate, synchronize our watches, and off we go. So they let go of the flows, jump through the gateway. But before it snaps shut, a spear follows them through there. And as the gateway closes, it cuts it. It's like a 2-foot section of the front of the spear off, and Rand like wraps it up in air on the other side and takes it for himself as a kind of reminder that he has other enemies out there that he has kind of forgotten about, and even though he can't see them, they are still very much a threat. And that's interesting because he takes it as a scepter. Asmodean convinces him to take it as a scepter afterwards, and Rand's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And this is the one that he keeps with him for this whole time. Yeah. Eventually, until Semirog blows his hand off.
Yeah.
That happens, I don't know, what book does that happen in? Jesus, I'm not even going to try and guess.
That's the tail end.
That's the tail end of it, yeah. That's my screensaver, is that where Min is standing behind him and he's battling Semirog, and he's got that... that thing. I was like, oh shit, this is the part. Like, I've been staring at that in front on my computer for years now.
Wow.
So that's the actual one. So anyway, as he's come through now, the gate closes and everything, and it's Asmodean is actually sitting there. It was him. So Asmodean was actually trying to help. He said he felt what was going on. He felt the weaves. He felt the one power. He came to check out what was happening. And he saw that weave, and he's actually pretty impressed that Rand could do it. He didn't know that someone could hold a gate open. I think he says only one other person was able to. I don't have that written down.
Yes, it was
Demandred, I think.
Demandred, yes.
Yeah, some other Forsaken that was only able to do that, but it's not something typical that you can hold a gateway open.
He does also say Luce Theron could.
Oh, well, there you go. That explains why Rand can do it. Rand doesn't know what he's doing 97% of the time. And this is one of those times. Fact. Excuse me. So, having seen all of this and finds out, like, well, what did you do with that? That weave, and why'd you do that? And why didn't you tell me you could do that? And Asmodean's like, listen, dude, like, every time we have one of our training sessions, you have 1,000 questions, and I can't keep track of all the things, and not only teach you what you want to know, but things that you don't want to know. So Rand tells him, like, listen, every time now that we have another class, you are going to tell me 2 things I didn't know for every one thing that I ask you about. So you've got some work ahead of you. So also, before I forget, as he jumped through as well and he sees Asmodean, he throws a shield in between the Asmodean and the power, of course, just in case. But yeah, eventually he lets that go because he realizes, all right, it's not as big a threat. Asmodean was actually helping, because Asmodean fears for his life at one point, because Rand is super pissed off, and he's like, "Can't you tell that my lot is with you? I'm your man. Like, there's no going back for me." And I am inclined to believe Asmodean, but then the back of my mind says he's a Forsaken, Jody. He's a Forsaken. And
well, his actions certainly indicate that he's trying to help Rand. I mean, what is this thing that he wove? Is it like a mask of mirrors sort of thing? Is it an illusion? Is it hiding it?
You can't see the gateway at all from that side. So in case somebody had come in the room, they would see there's a fucking gateway to another part of the world. There's snow flying through it. Yeah, so he had weaved like a mask of mirrors, basically made it invisible, because then Rand can see the flows, and when he moves his hand through it, it kind of shimmers, and then he can see the gateway. So yeah, he was actually helping, but look, I don't know. I just can't trust him.
He did try to kill Rand in Ruidian. They had a pretty serious fight there.
That was not too long ago.
No, not at all.
That's done and dusted now.
I don't know. He's just, because Asmodean is not in a position of power at the moment, he's being submissive. But the second he can get a chance, I think he'll take it.
I think so too.
I don't know.
You can't rely on him.
Dude,
right now, his lot is thrown in with Rand, but he's not converted.
No,
he hasn't repented.
I don't know. I always give the Forsaken a chance. You know, they're just people.
Of course you do.
Don't do that, Billy. Don't give Forsaken a chance. Yeah. Well, if Villy were the Dragon Reborn in the story, the book would be over. The series would be over book 1. And then Villy gave them that's the end. Darkness wins. So he asks, one of the things that for tonight's lesson is he wants to learn how he can slice through a woman's weave. Like, how do I cut a weave from Salidar without seeing what's going on? And Asmodean's like, that's very, very difficult to do, especially since we don't have a woman weaving, so we can practice on it. Rand's like, dude, you're just going to have to make a plan, because that is what you're teaching me tonight. Exactly. You're going to try very hard, and we're going to do it tonight, plus 2 other things. Remember those 2 other things that I don't know about that you're going to teach me, and you have until dawn to do it. So they've, Rand and Aviendha have been on their little shagathon in the other side of the world. A lot of time has passed. There's only a few hours left, so it's time to get to work and start some classes, because sleep is not an option. And that's how the chapter ends. Yeah.
That skill to slice a woman's weaves is employed by Rand in the Landfair attack at the end of this book.
Oh, sweet. So he does learn it.
He does. Yeah, because he mentions here that she did it to him in the stone.
Yes.
Now the maidens came looking for Aviendha.
Oh, yes. No,
and Asmodean makes up an alibi.
Yeah. Like they don't want to be disturbed.
So they want to be disturbed.
Yeah.
The next minute there's...
But it wasn't one of the maidens. Who was it that came? It was another...
was her near sister.
It was Aviendha's sister.
Near sister.
Who's always wanted her to leave the spear behind and get married and settle down. And she came to the door, and he's like, oh, don't disturb these 2. And she just ran.
That guy Shane went and told the other maidens, and then the maidens stood below the window shouting stuff that made Asmodean blush.
Banging their spears on their bucklers.
I think he said they were shouting suggestions. Oh man.
Well, he wasn't wrong, and that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Poor Rand, he's like, I can't keep any secrets from these maidens. Like, I go literally halfway across the continent to have sex with the girl that I've been eyeing for the last month. And then I get back and they still knew. And without us even being there, they're shouting commands on what she must do.
Yeah. What else, guys? I've got one other note.
Go for it.
Okay. It seems like Aviendha is quite adept at sensing whether other people can channel even just a little bit at somewhat of a distance. Because she says to Rand immediately, like, okay, obviously the Damane, but those women who are holding that have the bracelets on connected to the collars, they can channel too.
But they've
and then
weak,
Rand
like
quickly
they
does
haven't
the
been
mental
practicing.
arithmetic to go, oh yeah, okay, cool. It must mean that blah 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 blah. And now Rand knows that the Suldam can channel as well.
I don't think he knows Suldam can channel. He says those two must have slipped through. Like he immediately just thinks
that's
that
right.
they missed them.
That's right. 2 of them, all the Suldam he can see, all of them slip through.
Yes, 100% of all the Suldam is made.
Sunshine Empire
when he
of
tries-
lies.
Again,
When he
he's
tries
not
to-
wrong. 100% of
No,
them
he
can.
isn't.
Yeah.
When he tries to take the bracelet off, like it sends like a shock of power through all 3 of them, him and the Damane and the Suldam. And I think Aviendha says it almost killed them, the Damane and the Suldam. Like it was a massive jolt of power, and that's why they're crying to be saved by their Suldam. Like the Damane are crying to their Suldam to save them from these people who are trying to free them.
Well, from the
which is just-
Maratamane.
Yeah. It's just another reminder of how broken these Damane are.
And they know what Rand is. They know he's a man that can channel. I think it's not just like if a normal man touched those bracelets, nothing would happen.
No.
Because that happened, they're like, oh, not only is he a man that can channel, but he is strong. Like he almost killed us. So that's what they really freaking out about. And of course, what's her name? That lady looking on the list here.
Marissa.
Marissa.
She saw Rand above the skies of Falme. She says to him, I saw what you did there.
Yeah.
Morsa.
So it's confirmed by Morsa, yeah. So like then they felt it, then the lady Morsa confirms it, then like, oh shit.
Yeah, Aviendha also she tied them up, or she shielded them, and then she tied off the weaves, and she left them like that. And she's like, no, I didn't let them go. They're your enemies. Like stuff that I'm gonna anyone that's your enemy is my enemy, and I'm not gonna give them half a chance. Like she's gonna bring maybe that balance into Rand being soft when it comes to women, because Rand's gonna have to learn to fight against women very, very soon. These biggest threats.
He does
are
actually
women.
think to himself afterwards, like, I need to be harder. This is it does actually sink in.
Which is a long-running theme for Rand, right? Like hardening up the whole time, to the point of becoming stone cold.
Oh yes.
Now I have a question.
Oh yes.
Put a pin in it right now. I can tell you, because Aviendha wove the gateway, can the Damane not see the weaves and learn how to make gateways?
No, they couldn't see it because Asmodean hid it. They were standing around it.
No, they can see it from their side.
No,
Rand could.
Rand couldn't see it. They couldn't see it. Rand could feel it.
No, Rand can see the weaves. That
you can see Asmodean's weaves.
Okay.
They knew there was something there, but they couldn't find it.
Okay.
So Asmodean did the whole world a good solid there by not giving the Sunshine a shortcut into the middle of the Cairhien lands.
Sunshine a shortcut.
Hey, if the gateway's open and standing in front of you, you just walk through.
Oh man. Okay, well, guys, we did it.
Hey.
7 chapters in one episode.
There was much rejoicing.
There was. Now let's rejoice as we recount your favorite moments. Who wants to go first?
I'm very happy to go first because Jody's never prepared.
Okay.
And the trend continues.
Go for it, Vil.
My favorite moment in all of these chapters was the Aiel maidens chanting outside Rand's window and Aviendha's window to two people that's not even there, that is on the other side of the continent, on the other side of the world, busy having sex, yet they know,
true.
and they beating bucklers and spears and telling her what to do with his knob.
Jesus. What a romantic.
These maidens aren't romantics. I think they're quite brutal.
No, they do. I mean, by Asmodean's own account, they are actually quite crass.
And this is Asmodean, who takes complete advantage of Isundre the whole time. And he's
And
blushing.
I'm pretty sure it's described as a sexual deviant himself
Yes.
at some point. Not in these chapters, but earlier.
I think it just can be assumed. He's a deviant in many areas, being a Forsaken.
Well, his name
right.
starts with
Quite
ass, so
Jeez. All right, Joe, how about you?
I, with these last 1.5 minutes, have come to the conclusion that my favorite part is Gareth joining the Aes Sedai, that they have a kick-ass general, that finally that man who hates his forced retirement is back in the game and is making his plans, and he's large and in charge again.
Yeah. Jody, until about halfway through this episode, that was also my favorite moment.
Oh.
Basically, that whole chapter that Willie recounted, with like all his little nods to the other soldiers and his sort of acknowledgement, like their individual soldiering prowess, the ultimatum that he sets the Aes Sedai straight up, like all those things that he says to them about how the army will be run makes so much sense. Like, yes, obviously a great general would operate in that way, and also just the fact that he is immediately with them. He's like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll do this. I'll raise an army for you to march against the White Tower.
anything to not wear silken shirts and have to sit and dish out penances and laws to people who steal potatoes.
And immediately
And
start
also,
planning.
to be close to a certain someone.
Mara, who's
Blue-eyed
white, she's got
fisherwoman.
blue eyes and big
Yes.
breasts, apparently. I would like to ask, can we, in this section, bring in a least favorite moment? Because I have
Of course.
All right.
By all means.
Min,
I haven't prepared for this one either.
no, Jody, don't worry. Next next occasion, it will be there as well, and you would have forgotten anyway. But that's okay. That's you. I'm really upset with Siuan. And I didn't get to
yes.
have a good rant about this, but Min saved her bloody life. She pulled her out of a cell, out of a dungeon, cellar, prison. She took her, all the way. And what does she do? Just shove the dirty laundry, go wash this laundry for the guy that I made an oath to, that I broke, that I chose this heavy oath. Min would have been like, oh, promise I'll be good. You know, what's the least heavy oath I can give this guy to get out of it? But she had set this whole thing in motion. And Siuan is just a really, really big brat.
100% agree. My last note
Now
in
I'm
that
pissed
chapter
off
is
with her.
bloody Siuan just ordering Min around. I don't like it.
Damn it. I was going to let it slide, but now you've pointed too many things out. to me.
No,
Now
I can't let it slide. This is just absolute, like, Min is everyone talks about their character, their favorite character arcs, but Min is and have been, from my previous rereads, my standout favorite. Like, this time around, I'm trying to look at what else is there. But she is really just treated like shit for a really long time by almost everyone.
She is. Yeah.
The Aes Sedai don't see anything in her because they don't all know about her special viewings and that. Everyone just treats her like crap.
But even the ones that do,
treat her like
even the
crap.
ones that
Just
do
use her.
treat her like crap, even though they don't know like what a gem they have in her. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so anyway, I had to get that off my chest.
All right. Look, I mean, I don't want to turn this into a negative podcast and every week or every episode start talking about the stuff that I hate about it. But I'm pretty sure that at one point there was a favorite moment that I didn't pick a favorite moment. I only picked a least favorite moment instead of a favorite moment.
It happens.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel your pain, Will.
Yeah, I had to just step in for Min. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah. She deserves it. The only thing that sort of got me through that is thinking like where Min ends up. She ends up with Rand where she wants to be. She's eventually the only one that actually sticks with Rand by his side the whole time. She gets to read books and research stuff and be around him, so her life gets a lot better right up until the time that Rand tries to kill her. But, she survives that, and then they're better off for it afterwards. So,
Oh, true love. You got to survive at least one attempted murder.
Oh, man, that is broken. Adrian also wrote in with her favorite moment, and she said it's from chapter 27 where Newell, Morel's warder, announces in his best Mr. Krabs accent, if my aged mother do say different, I do name him Gareth Bryne from the glimpse I did get.
Money, 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 money.
And he winks at Morel first, of course. It's just, he's just such a rad dude.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So, to all of our listeners, send in your favorite moments, or, as Willie pointed out, your least favorite moments, or your theories, or corrections, or anything that you want to say to us, to any of the social media links in our episode description below. We also have a brand new way of reaching out to us, which is by leaving us a voicemail. So if you go to our website at bloodandashespodcast.com, at the bottom of the homepage, there's a little button you can click on, and you can leave us a 90-second voice message, which will result in a downloadable file for me. And if it's a good one, we'll add it into the show. So feel free to make use of that. And then also, if you're listening to our podcast on any Apple podcast or Spotify or any app like that where you're able to leave a review, please do so, or a star rating or anything like that. It'll help surface our podcast to other listeners and hopefully grow our numbers. And that would mean some more interesting conversations and more theories and hopefully for us answers to our questions, of which we seem to have many. So, next time on Blood and Ashes, we will cover chapters 33 through 36. That's only 4 chapters. Chapter 33 is called A Question of Crimson, and chapter 36 is called A New Name. We have a slightly condensed production cycle next week, so we're not going to bite off 7 chapters again. But yeah, I'm ready to read on and go. I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited again.
I'm keen now.
I'm ahead.
Yeah, there was a slight dip there in Jangai Pass, but then quickly after that, things hit their stride again.
Jangai apple cart.
That's the one. Imagine taking an apple cart through Jangai Pass.
Oh, God.
God, no.
No apple carts, thank you very much.
Don't worry, I think we're done with them. On that note, I will bid you both a fond adieu, and until next time, may an Ogier grace your library.
Oh, very nice. I'm not going to say anything because I can't beat that. Goodbye.
Good night.